Meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our Planning Commission meeting on behalf of the Planning Commission here. Our standard procedure for those of you that have not been with us in the past is we look to our staff, our engineer, and our planner to give us an explanation, overview of the applications. We'll look then to the applicant for their description and overview and comment. Invite comments from anyone in the audience, and the commission then deliberates and makes a decision. And in the process, the commissioners will ask questions and engage in conversation to that extent. Our first item, though, is an administrative item, which is the review and approval of our minutes from our last Planning Commission meeting that was held on July 8th. So I'd look to the commissioners for a motion or comments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our first item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 685 Hillcrest Drive for approval to install a pool and sports court in the side yard.
Evening, everyone. Eric Peach, your usual planner, is unavailable tonight, so I will be taking his place for
Okay.
you. I'm Joe Tangary with Giffords Webster. So we are looking at 685 Hillcrest Drive. This is the southern corner of Vaughan and Hillcrest Drive. The request is for approval of a side yard pool and sport court in the A1 one-family residential zoning district. You can see the stream that runs behind this property between it and 672 Vaughan there on this wetland map. That's one of the defining characteristics of the property. It's also got that kind of weird panhandle sticking off of it to the south that is essentially not buildable land. So this zooms in a little bit more. You can see that there's already a pool and a patio in the that side and rear yard there, and what they are proposing to do is replace that and add a sport court. So these are the yards. You have front yard, of course, along the frontages, and then when you get to the backyard of the house, most of that is actually side yard due to the configuration of the lot, and there is a corner in the back that would be a rear yard. Portion of the pool is in that rear yard, the rest falls into these side yards, and then the sport court is entirely within the side yard off to the west of the pool there. There is an existing fence which is shown in blue on this illustration, and that fence is not proposed to change. They're doing all the work within inside that fence. I believe that fence was approved in 2023. Looking at the dimensional standards, it was found that the setbacks are met for all of the elements of this plan. The pool or portions of the pool and the sports court, however, are located in that non-required side yard, which requires Planning Commission approval in both cases. The landscaped open space is not shown on this slide, but that is also compliant. The requirement is 80%, and they are at 80.02%, so just over. There are a couple of other elements at work here. There's a proposed pergola, which is considered a pool house. That doesn't require planning commission approval. It does, of course, have to meet all of the standards of the ordinance. That is reviewed for adequate screening as well. And there is a water slide, which is an accessory structure, also does not require planning commission approval. However, it is also reviewed for adequate screening. This is a detail of that pool slide, just so we're all aware of what we're dealing with there. And we have a series of renderings that I'll take you through here, just showing what this is going to look like. This is essentially looking due south from the corner of the sport court toward the pool, pergola, and water slide. Water slide is there at the southern end of the pool. And the renderings sort of take you around it to show you what the finished project will approximately look like. Some photos of the existing landscape screening that covers most of the property line here. There's a difference between the landscape screening along the stream and the street. The stream is much more naturalistic, and the street is more of a line, a hedgerow. This is looking kind of toward the house. This is almost due north, but not quite. This is toward 672 Vaughan, the home to the south. Kind of toward the back corner, that panhandle of the site. And then this is along Vaughan and Hillcrest roads. You can see there's pretty heavy hedges along the Vaughan frontage with a break for the driveway. That hedge is illustrated there. You can also see, sorry, that's the eastern property line. You've got some spruce trees along there. You can see the screening that's proposed for the pool equipment there in green, all those little green circles around the yellow rectangle there. That is proposed to be 5 feet tall, and the height of the equipment is less than 5 feet. The red circle refers to an area where, when the city manager visited the site, he noted that the existing vegetation permitted some views from the neighboring property in that marked location. The Planning Commission may consider requiring augmentation of screening in that location. And I'll let the city manager speak to what that looks like and what he found, if you have any questions about that. That brings us to the engineering items, and I will, of course, cede the floor to the engineer. All right.
Jamie, good to see you.
Yeah. You're getting all pinch hitters this week. Jamie Burton with Hubble, Roth and Clark, behalf of the city and for the engineering side. So I will walk you through this. This is pretty straightforward. Scope of work. If you see in sheet number 1 of your drawings, the scale and the size of the existing pool deck, and the features that go there, this is really kind of going over the top of that. I've never heard it called the Rippling Brook Drain in 26 years in the city, but be that as it may, I like it. We'll start calling it that from now on. It goes, anyways, the water generally flows back out into the stream section. But we did talk to them, and they are proposing a leaching basin right off the back of this patio to do some of their trench drains on top of the on the patio to dive into, help clean the water and help sort out and store a little bit of water before it ultimately goes to the stream. The grading, because of where the existing pool deck is all within the limits. They do have some walls, but they're all within 3 feet. Going pretty quick, and then you saw that Joe had all this. We should saw this. So overall. Everything goes to the Rippling Brook Stream. I can't wait to keep calling it that. But the existing site really does great. Everything should go down towards the river. They've got a good swale system along the back of this wide open area. I think there's a trampoline or something up in here at one point. Go around. The old pool deck takes most of this area, and I highlighted in yellow where the leaching basin is. So Probably on this site, because of the access and the riparian rights to discharge to the stream, I still think it's a good thing to clean up some of that patio surface water, pool water that may spill out, and provide a little bit of storage for the added square footage, which is really the difference between this site proposed and the existing hard surfaces. We're not aware of any flooding or other issues out there. So I went pretty quick, but I don't think there's really a whole lot here for me to talk about. Take any questions?
Where's that lead to, Jamie?
What's that?
Where's that rippling brook stream lead to?
So it comes in off like on the other side, it comes in from the township. There's a big wetland. If you go up Lasser, just north of Vaughan, there's like a pretty wooded area, wetland area. Kind of develops a stream and then just kind of arcs around and ultimately ends up in the stream that comes under, is that Lone Pine? And then kind of goes out, which becomes the Rouge River, you know, the branch of the
That's
Rouge
what I
River.
thought. It goes out through the
Yeah.
Lasser side, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes out to like south of Cranbrook, south of like Long Lake, and then works its way back into Bay Lake and then out.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's just kind of a tributary area to that, but it's not a county drain. There's no permits there. They're not working in the 25-foot setback. They're not working in the floodplain, so there's no eagle permitting. I think it's a pretty straightforward engineering project.
So it's never flooded back there?
No, there's a floodplain associated with any stream, and I'm sure it gets wet back there every now and again, but there's no, I don't believe there is a designated, because they don't regulate or map anything less than 2 square miles coming into a stream. Okay, so I haven't seen maps, but they're staying well away from it. The applicant can answer that question if their pool deck ever previously flooded. All streams will flood at some point, but it's not, they're staying pretty, they've respected the back area, the natural feature setback, they've respected that kind of buffer zone out there as well, so.
but it's not going into that, help me, on Lasser Road, we found that old drain there, remember, in that low-lying area on Lasser Road, just south of Long Lake. A while
No.
back, we talked, you know which one I'm talking
Yes,
about?
no.
The old one that's there?
Yeah, that's the other drain that kind of, county drain ends, and then it goes between the houses,
Yes.
Oak Knob, yeah, that's Oak Knob. No, this is south of that.
Okay.
This is almost
It
down to
doesn't
Lone
connect
Pine.
to it, okay.
Nope.
All right.
Any other questions?
You're good.
Holler if you need me.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Do you have comment to make?
Yes, lived in the home since.
Would you let us know who you are?
Sure. My name is Chris Barbat. I live at 685 Hillcrest. I have lived in the home since 2018, and we've never had any sort of flooding. The grass has never even been soft. It's always been very dry back there. The heaviest rainfalls, it doesn't go above the perimeter of that Riverman Brook stream. So, no issues with flooding or water back there at all. And I have a pool.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience that has comment on this? Anyone else? Okay.
Question. So the pool was taken out before all of this was approved, I'm guessing?
It was leaking.
Ah, okay. Do we have a drawing of showing where the old pool was on the site, just so we can see what it looks like in comparison to where the new pool, I mean, like an overlay almost?
I don't know that we have an overlay. We could go to a couple of comparison images, however. Let's see what the best way to do that is.
Sheet 1 in your packets, if you've got the drawing, sheet 1 is the existing conditions. It kind of shows that,
Yeah, I
So
can
you've got the current patio and pool there, and then it's not quite a one-to-one in terms of scale, but you can see the pool is coming a little bit further south and east. The sport court is located partially where the current pool is. Current pool is kind of between that sport court and the future pool.
A question for us is, I mean, I'm assuming that this is an issue as a side yard because it fronts both on Hillcrest and Vaughan?
Correct.
Correct.
So if it were to just front on Hillcrest, which is the address, would it be fine with the setback where it is, if that were a rear yard setback?
Yes, yeah. It would
Good
be-
question.
It would
Is it
be in
far
the
enough
rear
from
yard.
the-
Sort of difficult to make that judgment because the house is like facing the corner.
Well, I'm talking about this south property line, basically, you know, as it extends to the south property line. You know what I mean?
You're saying is the pool too close to the
I don't know.
edge of the
I'm not saying
lot?
it is. I'm just asking if it
You're
were a
right.
rear yard setback, would it be okay?
Good question.
Because it kind of really is a rear yard for the most part.
Yeah.
Is the corner of the pool too close to
Yeah.
the?
I don't know that it, I'm just asking the question. I don't know.
That's a good question.
Do we have a dimension on there? We could probably figure that out real quickly.
The dimension of the setback itself is 45.7 feet. The rear setback in that district, Ian, do you happen to know what the rear setback in that district is? Yeah.
What's the setback to the natural features?
Yeah, I'm asking the corner of the pool to the natural feature.
It's 20, so the rule is 25 feet from the natural feature.
And what
Yes.
is the dimension here?
I'm
What's
not sure.
closer?
.49 feet from the natural feature setback.
That is
It
the
doesn't
ordinance,
look
or
like
that's
50
what it is?
feet.
That's where it is.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't, from the corner of the pool to the brook,
With the sports court?
the sports court or the corner of the pool, both look pretty close to the water.
Well, the natural feature setback in blue. That's the issue.
So the
It appears to be
natural-
49 feet from the actual
Sounds like
natural
50
feature
feet.
itself.
The natural feature extends out from
It is,
the natural feature. The natural feature setback is 25 feet beyond the natural feature.
Does this comply?
Yes.
That's the question.
Right.
yes. It's all within the existing fence, and the existing fence is outside of the natural feature setback.
No, it's
Well,
right along it.
What's the light blue? Isn't that the natural features?
The light blue is the natural feature setback.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's this, so the natural feature then is the dark blue, that's sort
Yeah.
of the narrow,
The kind of purplish
the
dark blue.
purplish, yeah. And then the natural feature is that more pastel blue.
That's the setback.
That's the setback.
Right.
Okay.
So it's outside of the setback.
That's correct, yeah, it's not in the
So
natural
how,
feature
but
setback.
how close can you get to the setback from the structure?
Right, like that one corner right there, where that,
As long as you're not in the setback.
As long as you're not in the setback,
Right
yeah,
up
you're
to it?
fine, yeah.
Yeah.
you can go right up to it?
Yeah, you can go right up to
Build
the natural
up to
feature
it.
setback.
You still have to be, you can't build in a restricted setback.
So, like, I think we're talking about here
Yeah.
and here.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're saying they can go all the way up
They,
here?
they could come right up to the natural feature. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that help?
Actually, our city is more restrictive than most. So
Yes.
most cities don't have a natural feature setback. I mean, so if it's a water course, you've got to comply with eagle requirements and that sort of thing. You couldn't get into a floodplain. Our rules actually offer an additional 25 feet in a lot of, for example, in this case.
So the light blue is land,
Yeah.
and the purple is the water.
Right.
And there's 25 feet in that
Right.
buffer zone.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, we're good. That's a short version, right? I mean,
Okay, good question.
There were orange of these.
So you had everyone, you know?
You had everybody stumped.
No, I think it's a great thing. It looks like the whole water feature is that wide.
So, let's see, no other comment. One, I guess, note is there's lots of screening on this property now, so you can't really see what's going on when you're going down Vaughn Road, and that's an important element, so.
And I planted all those just a couple years ago.
Right, I remember when you
They
did
look
that.
great.
Yeah.
They're gonna be hedged much nicer.
Yeah.
with some of
May I ask why the deck is elevated? Is it for,
the new one?
Yes.
Kind of to, level out with my existing deck that's also kind of elevated, so we can kind of communicate better on the same line of sight.
nice.
looks like a great plan.
Beautiful, yeah.
Okay. So, any other comments or motion, or?
I'll make a motion to, I'll make a motion to approve the side yard pool. And we don't have, some fencing's already done, correct? Yes, the side yard pool as proposed in the plans at 685 Hillcrest Drive.
And the sports court.
And the sport court, excuse me.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Are you okay with that? Okay. I'm checking with you.
Amy, you okay with that?
I mean, I don't know if we're rushing it, but there is.
Oh, you for,
I visit the property,
Pardon me?
I visited the property from the neighbors that saw it. There's some holes there. So
There's some, I'm sorry,
some
Holes.
holes from a screening perspective, which, I think Eric,
the red circle.
So-
Joe called out on the plan.
So I'll amend my proposal to include fully screened around the entire yard and hiding the pool, the tennis court.
There's a lot of natural screen there, but there's not evergreen. So in the winter, I drove into the actual that store because there's soldier, arborvitae all around. Looks good, or green giant arborvitae. Looks really nice all the way around. But if you pull into the driveway next door, and I know the next door neighbor is not here, but in the winter, there'll be some open views there. So
Are you willing to fully screen that so the neighbors cannot see in the winter?
Sure. So I don't have any trees along this rippling stream brook at all. All the coverage between this neighbor and myself are along his property and are his trees.
right.
So I just think it would be kind of odd to place a green, spruce right here and a pine right here. It just looks really odd. I don't, this is just sod right up to that,
Yeah.
to that
I mean,
stream.
I'm just explaining to the.
I love the
commission
cover
myself.
too. I love the cover as well. I could propose it to the neighbor. I planted a lot of trees in his, and I helped him out in a way. I could get a letter from him.
I know a lot of the trees seem to be on a neighbor's property, but, you can screen properties from all sorts of ways, screening right up next to the, to the structures or whatever.
To the fence. We usually normally have them screening along the fence line, right?
But, I mean, I'm not sure if anybody else actually drove into the next door neighbor's lot, but I did.
I can't say I did.
So, whether it makes a big difference or not, but right now, it looks okay, it looks okay, you can see through, you can see some of the construction going on. But, in the winter, how about this? I would propose that, I could talk with you about it and take a look at it, and maybe you could block a little bit of the view. Sure. But we'll not put a few nice trees if that's okay.
Or maybe I could have the neighbor, I'll pay for it and install them.
Sure.
And he would probably appreciate it.
We cannot speak for the neighbor.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, city attorney. We can't speak for the neighbor. We gotta just decide what he's gonna
It's
do.
not the biggest deal ever, you guys.
It's not, again, it's screened pretty well, but it's all deciduous. It's not evergreen, and there's a little area you can see through, I can point it out to you.
So maybe amend your motion to include
Yeah,
that the neighbor's view is obscured.
At the
Yes.
discretion of the city manager.
Okay, so, Amy, did you get that?
Yes.
I'm gonna amend it that it's, the view is obscured from the neighbors at the discretion of the city manager to make sure it's screened all year long. And no reference to the neighbor at all. This is just him.
I don't think it'll be that difficult, I think we could find those spots.
Great.
So.
Second that.
You'll second that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So the next item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 115 Bridgeview Drive for site plan approval and a grading variance to construct a new home.
Yes. So this is at 115 Bridgeview Drive. That is at the corner of Bridgeview and Long Lake Road. Kind of a knife blade shaped lot with a, kind of comes to a point at the back. You can see that there. So the zoning is A3. This is a request for approval of a site plan, and there is a grading appeal involved here. So this is in the Barton Hills subdivision. All new homes in the Barton Hills subdivision require approval by the Planning Commission. This is Unit 11. It is included in a blanket setback variance granted to Units 5 through 11 in November 2005, and it is therefore not subject to the algebraic setback requirements of 24-196V of our ordinance. But that is part of the reason you're looking at this, the other part, of course, being the grading appeal. This is, of course, a vacant lot at the moment. So the proposed home is the white shape in the middle of this yard diagram. There are a couple of conservation easements in the northern portion of the site. There's also a sanitary easement running across it. So that northern portion of the site and a little bit of the eastern portion are very difficult to do anything with. Also a landscape easement along Long Lake Road, which runs with the subdivision. They pretty much have one place on the lot where they can put the house. The dimensional standards were reviewed and they were found to be compliant. There is some mechanical equipment that is screened that will require building official approval, but it is shown as screened on the plan. There are no accessory structures or buildings that are proposed with this. Landscaping shows the required replacement trees. Here is the landscaping plan for the property. We got a couple zoom-ins here to help you see in a little better detail. This is the front of the lot. You can see this driveway. And some clusters of trees. And then when you go to the back of the house, there's a small water feature and a lanai and a wood deck back there. This is a rendering of the home from the front, and that brings me to the grading appeal slides, so I will again cede the floor to the engineer.
When this subdivision was developed, in addition to the kind of blanket variances that were offered as far as the algebraic formula and come back before planning commission, is the planning commission, I think even the city commission under the development agreement, did not want the lots to be pre-graded or pre-cleared without homes being, actual homes being proposed, if you recall that. So the applicant is proposing, they've done a good job of matching the existing grades, except in one little area of the driveway. And if you recall, in some of these ones that have come in, because we didn't do that pre-grading, they've all had these little areas, if you will, that we just waited for actual homes to be built. So I'll show you that in a minute. No utilities, the drainage impacts have been considered within the development of the site. All the water goes around, goes under their road, and there's storage in the existing wetlands, part of the conservation easement. All the stormwater management for homes of this size has already been addressed. And the site, from the finished grade perspective and the elevations of the home, is consistent to the master grading and drainage plan. We always check back to the master plan. In fact, sometimes we make the developer come back before you. If houses start going up and down, one person comes in and wants 3 foot high, then the next person has to be 4 foot high, and then it gets out of whack as you go. This house is consistent as you move up the street. You kind of saw if the rendering, the driveway's a little higher, steps down to kind of the front door. They're really doing a good job of matching. So the site, and there's really just the area, 3.5 feet, kind of in that corner area of the driveway. Again, if you were to pre-build pads for homes, you probably would have had this addressed during the site development. It's pretty typical to build those areas out. So we don't really see a huge issue with it. They've directed swales around the house, which is, again, consistent with the master grading plan. We want it back into the wetlands behind, and that ultimately goes out under their bridge and out to Bay Lake. So pretty straightforward. Don't really have much more to say about this one as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jamie? Or? No? Okay.
How close, I have a quick question. How close was all this to all the drainage work and everything we did over by Eastways? I mean, I went to the site, but
so this is the closest house to that.
That's what I was thinking. So did they just wait till that was done before they were gonna build?
Well, I don't really know. So road commission replaced culverts here and here, right? And
Right.
And this was dug out a little bit during the development, and this is part of their stormwater basin that they built, and this is all this big wetland area into the back. So it drains down in through, out, and out to Bay Lake. So this site falls from here back to the wetland area, and again, that's all taken up into the stormwater basins. Actually, there was, if you remember, Mrs. Shia lived here, and the developer worked with them and to do some of this work through there. But yeah, it's right downstream of that. I don't think it was a chicken and egg situation. They were waiting for anything to happen. I think that was just, Road Commission was doing their 2 projects up there, and then these guys were ready to develop at the time.
But it didn't change any of the runoff towards that house or anything?
No.
It's probably better now.
Yep.
Great.
Cosmo Lombardo with Cranbrook Custom Homes, 13001 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, Michigan. I don't have a ton of comments. I was telling my colleague here a minute ago who's just starting with us, I said the planners and engineers do such a good job presenting here. We don't have to prepare as much of a presentation. Just in general, this is the 3rd time we've been in front of you guys for a house in this community, so we really did our homework. We did our absolute best to meet all the criteria we know you guys want. Unfortunately, right at the back of that driveway, there was no way to get it compliant, but we did everything we could, and I'm just here to answer any question you guys might have.
Any questions for the gentleman?
I kind of, I would like you to consider complying to our ordinance regarding signage as a builder.
Okay.
They're supposed to be black and gold. They're supposed to be no higher than 5 feet, and not multiple, and not, I mean, I don't know what, but it'd be nice if they were, because you're building a bunch of sites, and you can
Yeah.
see it from Long Lake. And I just think out of respect to the residents, other residents that are in there, and all the people from our city driving by, that
Absolutely. We'll get that taken care of. I wasn't aware of that, but I know exactly what sign we put up there because it's our typical sign. We will absolutely take care of that.
and it's supposed to be 25 feet back from the road, I believe.
Okay.
Actually, from the property line.
Property line? Okay, thank you.
Was this a private road?
Which is sometimes the middle of the road?
Road's edge, 25 feet from the road's edge.
Well, I think if we look at the ordinance, what the ordinance says, it's got to be 25 feet back from the property line.
We changed the ordinance, it's 25 feet from the road's edge.
You guys amended the ordinance?
We did.
Oh,
In October 24th.
oh.
It's 25
Yeah.
feet from the road's edge.
I didn't know that you amended the ordinance.
It's too hard to figure out the line.
Based on what
Yeah.
Commissioner Fisher said, our sign is not compliant. I know that for sure because it's our typical sign, and we will pull that up, get that sign out of there, and we'll confirm the dimension when we look up your ordinance. We'll make sure it's compliant because
Thank you.
it
Did
is.
you
and I
do that for
apologize
all
that.
of your homes that you're building in there? I think there's 2 or 3. At
We
least
had-
2.
Yeah, this would be the second one. Home site number 4 was one where we couldn't work through an issue with a sport court in a side yard, and our client didn't want to move forward for that reason. So right now we're building on home site number 1, which is directly across the street from this, and you're right on Long Lake. And you are correct, that sign does not comply with that ordinance you just cited, so we'll make sure we take care of that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Anyone, okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Lombard? Okay, thank you. Anyone else here have comment on this? So.
I'll make a
comments?
motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we approve the request of the property owner at 115 Bridgeview Drive for the site plan approval and the grading variance to construct a new home.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good luck with your house.
Do you have to get rid of the black walnut? They're not exactly, they're rare. You don't see them a lot. Yeah. Just it's okay, just one.
Thank you, good luck.
So our next item is the Planning Commission will consider the request of the property owner at 180 High Oak for site plan approval to construct a new commercial building with underground parking. And just for the benefit of the commission, the applicant came to the city about a year ago with this, and it's been reviewed several times. You're gonna find yourself, because were you part of this, Joe?
Well, I've discussed it with Eric in a great deal
Okay.
of detail.
All right. So I guess we'll go through it in that.
I also have a great deal of familiarity with the site because there was a proposal 5 or 6 years ago that I was part of reviewing that was a completely different project that never went forward, but,
And one part of that consideration is that proposal, actually, it was a site plan approved building.
correct.
So that building was
Without
actually site plan approved, and they just didn't develop it, but,
Right.
okay.
Right, so we are looking at the site plan approval for a new office building. There are some modifications to the existing office building on this site. It's an L-shaped site. The building is at the corner. It'll become a little clearer when we move to the aerial image. But it's got the O1 office zoning. There's kind of a strip that goes across the street and then down to the south, and there's B1 zoning across High Oak and a portion of Long Lake as well. You can see that the existing building is on the corner of High Oak and Concord, and that's where the parking lot is as well, down on Concord. So they're proposing to use that vacant portion of the property that extends north toward Long Lake Road for this new building and some additional parking. The total area of the site is 1.38 acres. So there's 3 front yards because they do front on 3 different streets. Everything else is side yard by our ordinance. There is no rear yard on this property. So the existing building you can see there at the south portion, and then the north portion is where the proposed building is. This is, just zooms in on it a little bit. The larger of the 2, or actually there's 3 white rectangles there, is a ramp that goes down to the basement parking. So there are actually 2 levels of parking here. One is more or less at grade, and the other one is below that in a basement. And then here is the south building. Now there is a small addition proposed to this south building. There are some enclosed, partially enclosed parking spaces under the building here. And what they're proposing to do is add the extra wall that would enclose that space and turn it into internal space. And the floor plans do label that space. I will have to get to the floor plans for me to remember exactly what it was labeled. This plan did go to the Planning Commission subcommittee, and there was some feedback given at that meeting. I've got some slides in here later on that address the questions and guidance that were given at that meeting and how the plans respond to that. One of the things that you can see immediately if you were in that subcommittee meeting, though, is that the front yard parking lot that was once proposed along High Oak is gone now. There was a small 2-car parking lot there that was removed from the plans. So there are, in addition to the overall site plan approval, there are 5 sort of discretionary considerations for the Planning Commission tonight. Those include the location of the loading zone, parking reduction, design standards, landscape plan, and landscape screening, particularly at the southwest portion of the site where the number 5 is here. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals, should you convey approval, we'll be looking at 4 items. The north algebraic setback, the minimum setback to the south, the front yard loading area in the south there, number 3 in blue, and then a loading area not being provided on the northern portion of the site. They're proposing to use that loading area on the southern portion of the site for both buildings.
So you're saying, you're gonna, they got that turned down, but this is still opening, were there more before? Were there more objections before?
Yes, there were a number of things that have happened to this plan that
If you
have,
could go over those, that'd be great, thank you.
yes, certainly. So looking at the loading zone there, there's a few things to talk about there. You can see the highlighted text there. The Planning Commission may permit central loading areas to be shared by multiple uses such as retail, shopping center, or office park. And then you are allowed to modify the requirement for uses that will involve smaller delivery vehicles. There's a 10-foot by 50-foot minimum size for these loading spaces. The size and location of the loading area does have to be sufficient to prevent undue interference with adjacent required parking spaces, maneuvering aisles, or traffic flow on streets. One thing that you'll note here is that this loading zone is located partially in the, it takes up a portion of the maneuvering lane across from some parking spaces. So when that loading space is occupied, there may be some interference with vehicles in those parking spaces, should they want to leave those parking spaces, or should someone want to get into one of them.
There may or there is.
There is.
There is. They're blocked in.
And I guess I don't want to extend this discussion, but while you have some things up here, I just want to point them out. So if you just go back, so the first sentence in this says, on the same premise with every building or structure. So one of the criteria that we're going to be talking about, I don't know if you're, because you don't have it highlighted, is there is no loading area for the north building.
That's correct,
Okay,
yeah.
so just so the commission understands, while that first sentence isn't highlighted, it's relevant because there is no, while it's a requirement of the code, it's not, that's one of the variances. So
That's
go
right.
ahead, I just wanted to
Yeah.
point that out.
So we're starting out with your discretionary items, and then we'll get to the zoning board of appeals ones
Okay.
subsequent to that. But yes, that is definitely true. So the next item for your consideration is a parking reduction. They're proposing not to build 15 of these spaces. They're proposing to land bank them instead. So what you see on the plans is some 15 spaces on the west end of this site that are grayed out because they're not proposed to be constructed now. And our ordinance has some guidance on that. There are conditions that have to be met in order for the Planning Commission to be able to approve the deferral of those parking spaces. A parking study demonstrating a lesser demand. There is a Fishback parking study that was included in your packet that does show a lesser demand, and of course you can discuss that with the applicant. All land banked parking spaces do have to be shown on the plan, and they are showing 15 here.
I'm sorry, what's this term, land bank?
So what it does is it essentially establishes a bank of parking spaces that can be constructed in the future should they become necessary. So what our ordinance does is it sets up a process for determining whether or not those are necessary in the
Is this,
future.
this light area?
So you have an agreement between the owner and the city to build the spaces if they are needed. And then you do a follow-up parking study within 9 months of occupancy to show whether or not the approved reduced parking is sufficient to meet the demand. If it's proved or shown not to be sufficient, then the additional parking has to be built at that time.
And how many spaces how many less spaces do we have than is required in the ordinance?
15, so they're
15,
proposing
so
to take
15.
15 of those and bank them.
And what kind of building is this?
So they're both offices. The southern building is currently an administrative office, and it is converting to a medical office, which is a higher demand for parking. So the demand generated for parking generated by that building has grown as part of this project, but there's also new demand created by the new office building, which is a more professional administrative office building to the north as well.
So you basically said more demand for both buildings, and we're reducing it by 15 right now.
Well, they're adding additional parking on the northern portion of the site. What they're doing is instead of building all of the parking that is now required, they're building most of it, and they're proposing not to build 15 of those spaces at present, with the option to build them in the future if they are proven to be necessary.
What's the number of parking spaces for the existing building now?
For the existing building now, I can tell you that. Hold on one second. So the existing building, if you are following along in the letter, that is item 6 in our review on page 8 of the review. The current use of the south building is non-medical office. Based on existing gross floor area, it complies with the minimum parking standards. They have 39 spaces and 38 are required. When it converts to medical office, the requirement goes up to 57. So there's a pretty significant jump in the number of required spaces there, 19 additional spaces. And they are, again, looking at the totality of the site, you have a higher requirement across the site now because there's an additional building and a change of use in the southern building. They are proposing to build most, but not all of that new requirement.
And the reasoning for that is they don't think they need it?
Yes, that's correct.
And what kind of medical building is this going to be?
I will have to let the applicant speak to the actual occupancy of
So
the
you don't know?
well, I'll let them speak to what the actual operations are.
I mean, he
Just,
doesn't know?
but just to summarize for the commission a little bit. So what we have under our ordinance is simply put here, we've got 2 buildings. Can you go to the overall site plan?
Yes. Let's find a good
So if you're looking at this, right now, the building in the lower right-hand corner, so that's the existing building. And they're proposing then to build the building north of that, which is on the vacant property. So right now, the parking that exists is sort of that shaded area where you've got, where the 1 is. There are also 6 additional parking slots that are underneath the building. And so.
Underneath the existing building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so they're doing a couple of things. One is they're changing the use of the building on the southeast corner, the lower right-hand corner. So they're changing the use from office to medical. And so that bumps up the requirement. The requirement for parking is 1 space per 250 square feet for office. If it's for medical, it's 1 space for 175 square feet. So it bumps up to this larger number. Then what they're doing is they're building this other building and they're adding parking. Now, one of the considerations is this entire site is now being treated as 1 site. So they're combining all the parking. So while we're looking at this a little bit and saying, well, you got 2 buildings, you got 2 sites, each lot should service the building. What we have here is a condition where it's all 1 parcel, and so you've got 2 buildings that are using the same parking lot.
Both medical?
Pardon me?
Both
No,
medical?
actually, the one on the north then is office, so that has a lower requirement in terms of it's 1 space per 250 square feet. So at the end of the day, right now, they've said, their parking consultant says, we don't need all these spaces. And according to the letter of the parking consultant, what it says is, this is actually a medical facility where they are going to be doing outpatient work, where people are going to be in the office for up to 5 hours a day. So people are going to be sedated and that sort of thing, which actually raises issue about ADA compliance, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. Because where you have that, there's actually separate rules that run with that. But in this case, so the total spaces that are required are 89 spaces.
For both buildings.
For both buildings.
And how many ADA? I don't want to talk about it later, I want to talk about it now.
Well, it
How
could get
many?
confusing.
Okay.
So actually what the rules say is ADA compliance is deemed based on the number of parking places for a building. So if it's over 50, you've got to have 3 spaces. And so in the ADA compliance, it's determined on a building-by-building basis. And so what we have here is there's actually 4 places, and I guess maybe we can get into these questions because those were some of the questions and they weren't addressed in the packet. And so maybe we can better understand that because according to the ADA rules, you should have, now, I guess question becomes, here, you've taken the position that you've got a reduced parking requirement for the overall site, but you still have a medical building that has a requirement for over 50 parking places, which trumps? Is it the ADA compliance, or is it if you decide you don't need as many parking places, you can just unilaterally change the requirement for parking? I'm not really sure about that, but I guess we can. I don't want to get too bogged down into that.
So there's 39 spaces in the existing building?
Right now, yes, yeah. And the requirement for the existing building would be 38,
As an office building?
yes, as a professional office building, yeah.
Medical use?
So not medical, yeah. So we're just making a distinction between professional.
And you want to
and
lower that
medical.
39 by 15?
No, they're not taking away spaces that exist now. They're adding more spaces. They're just not adding enough new spaces to get all the way to the requirement.
The 39 would be, we're going to keep 39 for the existing building, but the medical requirement would be 50-something?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you want to put those people parking in the north building?
So the parking for the north building is related to the square footage that's being provided by the north building.
Except what this building is relying on is the parking in the north, because
Right.
there's actually, for the building on the north side, if my memory serves me right, there's 41 spaces.
Yes, yeah.
I think there's 41 spaces in the north building, but you only need 20.
Yeah, I can give you the
So
numbers here.
at the end of I guess there's going to be a lot of questions. Let me just summarize without diving too deep into some of these other issues. The bottom line is our ordinance allows us to give way in terms of the parking requirement to an applicant to say, you don't have to build these spaces if you can demonstrate that you're not going to use them. However, you must demonstrate that you can build the spaces at some point later on. And we do that for a couple different reasons. First of all, they could sell the building. You have a building right now that, it's designed for office. And so while the current user may not need those spaces, legally, it's still an office building that can accommodate so many people. And so the city then has the option of coming back and saying, okay, you need these spaces, you can go build them. You must go
Build out the
and
bank
build them.
spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an acceptable premise, provided they can demonstrate that they can build the spaces. And having looked at this, now, there's questions personally I have about parking here in terms of what they're doing, but in terms of just overall spaces, the 89 spaces, the premise that they can build them if needed, and they have a parking study that says right now they may not need them, is fine, because the city can always come back later on. And we could actually put that that could be as part of this approval, because there is a 9-month window in there, but I think it's in this, someone ought to consider, if they're going to make a motion at some point, that we also want to make sure that if there's some subsequent user that came in, that you could you could demand that they increase the number of parking places.
Are all the parking spaces in the north building underground?
Say that again?
All the parking spaces in the north building?
No, actually 19 are down, which actually brings up other consideration because, and part of this is this ADA compliance requirement, because under the ADA rules, you have to have the ADA spaces accessible to the building, easily, like the shortest route. So right now, there's 2 spaces down here, and the only way you get to the north building is, now they have a sidewalk that goes along the entire, there's actually a ridge there, and you've got to walk down the sidewalk to like High Oak.
And it's not covered?
And you'd have to walk down the sidewalk over to High Oak and then walk up to, those other parking places are up where the 3, you see where the 3 is?
Yeah.
So you'd have to walk, that's where the other ADA compliance spaces are. But there's other issues, and I don't want to get buried, we shouldn't get buried, because there's other bigger issues here, I think.
Like all is red.
So anyways, go ahead, Joe.
Sure.
But just so everyone understands what's going on with this bank parking. So, bottom line, they need 89 spaces. They have 89 spaces available, but they only intend to build 77? Okay. And we're fine with that. I mean, it follows the ordinance. But there's other considerations here that you'll want.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to say one thing for the city's fact, and I don't think there are bigger issues. I think ADA compliance is a big issue.
Oh,
The
I'm not
city should
suggesting.
be very concerned that this building, both buildings, are ADA compliant before they're even
Oh,
built.
Susan, I'm not suggesting, that's an important issue.
It's-
There's other.
It doesn't get built unless they are fully compliant.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. I mean,
Can
I
I
wrote
just ask a
the,
detail then? If the only handicap parking is in the south, which is,
no, actually, there
No,
are
there's
2
two
spaces.
spaces.
there are 2 up here, right? Okay, good. Thank you. Because there are only stairs between. Thank you.
Okay.
So, moving on to other items here. These images here speak to the design standards. There is a full review of the design standards in the letter beginning on page 12 of the letter. But this sort of gives you an idea of what the building roughly will look like. The arrows at the bottom of these screens show you the rough viewing angle of each of these 3D renderings.
Is that what you think it's gonna look like as an engineer, that picture before that you were just looking at? Can you go back to it?
I'm
It
going to be
looks that
cautious
one.
to say
Is
I'm
that
not an
building
engineer.
floating? Is that building floating there, or are we missing part of the structure?
You're not seeing the supports in the other corner of the
So the supports in the other corner are not on this supposed rendering of the
behind
design?
that tree, I believe.
Because I see a lot of posts that are not, it's not a floating building. There are those same white posts all over the place. If we look at A100, they're all over the place. And yet their rendering can't seem to capture just how much structure is being shown to everyone driving by in the city of Bloomfield Hills. This just kind of says to me how the Davison building got built. This is a building that you're looking at, that is being presented to the city as this is what it looks like, but these things are missing. All the structures, it's not standing up on itself.
But let me suggest this. It's probably best to let Joe, I mean.
I'm just saying, you
everyone's
just said it was
points
a
here are
rendering, and
valid,
he's an
but
engineer.
we could be here for a couple hours, well, we may be here for a couple hours, but, maybe if you go a little bit further, Joe.
Sure.
Not to,
No,
don't
it's
mean to
fine, but
interrupt you.
as long as he's not saying this is what it looks like, because
But
it's not.
that's fair. The bottom line is, to Catherine's point, that rendering is not an accurate depiction of the building. Okay.
Couple more angles here. The red vehicle is positioned on the ramp of the basement parking. That patio area is on the High Oak side of the building. This is more getting up High Oak toward Long Lake Road.
So that is the view from, if you're driving on Long Lake? Because
Yeah.
I was struggling to determine which rendering was,
Right, that's
Long
the
Lake
view
drive-by view.
from the Long Lake. It's sort of the, where Long Lake flares out to get you onto High Oak. It's taken from the flare, essentially.
it's taken from High Oak, correct?
It's as you're turning onto High Oak, exactly. So there's
So-
a deceleration lane there, and
You're going down, I mean, I don't know if the arrow really, I don't,
This is the Long Lake view. Faces Long Lake.
all that glass is on Long Lake, and there's no parking underneath to be seen, no cars to be seen from Long Lake.
And where that gentleman is being depicted as standing, is that, where is that? Is that
Where's
where
there
the
a person?
cubicles are? Or is that where it's open to below with the glass bar on the second floor? Is the second floor plan we're looking at? Is the elevator right there in the front? Is the elevator on the front, or are we looking at,
That's
This-
there.
Inside.
the elevator's on that side?
It's inside.
I understand the elevator's inside, thank goodness. But I'm talking about on this rendering, whether you have the man standing there. Is that the open to below
Right.
area?
That's,
Yes,
Okay,
you would
thanks.
be standing behind
Thanks.
that.
The open to below area right here. Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And that's Long Lake.
a few more of these. Okay, so this is the landscape plan. So this is the northern portion of the landscape plan. You can see the tree planting, the Hicksue hedge there down along the High Oak side. And there's also a hedge by the retaining wall that separates this property from the property to the west. When we get onto the southern portion of the property, one of the things that we're really looking at hard here is the western property line here. Page 10, item 13 of the review addresses this. So what our ordinance requires is that screening of the southwest property line with or without the banked parking spaces requires either a wall or berm, as well as consideration and approval by the Planning Commission. The plans don't currently show a wall or berm at the west property line as required. They do show a hedge and other landscaping, but the wall is not present there, nor is a berm.
Oh, maybe it's up here, no?
And the length and location of walls and berms does have to be approved by the Planning Commission. And that is, the purpose of that is to contain within the site or minimize the adverse influences of automobile parking and drives provided thereon. Moving on to the items that would require variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we have a couple of setbacks for the front of this building as it faces Long Lake Road. There is a minimum setback, which is from the 75 feet from the center line of Long Lake Road. There, in excess of that, there are 80 feet 9 inches. There is, however, also an algebraic setback, and they are not meeting the algebraic setback. So they would require a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for that algebraic setback.
Can you be more specific?
Yes, so some detailed analysis of that is on page 7, item 2 of the review, where we're noting that it doesn't pass the algebraic setback, and I'm giving you the numbers here. That's further back in the table.
75 feet?
So they meet the 75-foot setback from the center line, they're 80 feet. But the algebraic setback requires a 32-foot setback, and that is from the property line, not the center line. And they're 18 feet from the property line. So there's 2 setbacks at work for that northern.
So
face of
18
the
instead
building.
of 32?
That's correct, yes. Now, there's also a setback for the southern building that is not compliant, and that is the existing building. So there is a wall there. I'll actually show you the next slide because it actually shows it. So what they're planning on doing is where that truck is poking out there, they're planning on building a wall across those existing parking spaces to enclose that space. Footprint of the building isn't increasing, but because the space is being enclosed, it's considered to be an addition to the building. And that has to meet the setback. Right now, they have a non-conforming setback of 31 feet 9 inches, and the requirement there is 35 feet. So this wall that you're seeing here isn't actually getting closer to Concord Road. It's just currently non-conforming, and it's being enclosed. So we're calling that setback for a variance, given that it's going to be, the nature of the space is changing.
Is the algebraic setback, for people who are newer, is the algebraic setback the same for commercial buildings as it is for residences in the city of Bloomfield?
There's a different divisor, but otherwise it is the same concept.
So anyone who's trying to build a house can only build it so high and where they can place it?
Right.
The same thing applies to buildings in the city of Bloomfield Hills?
Exactly.
Yes, it's very frustrating. It's like a balloon, if you move
Yeah.
this in, then.
But so we're 18 to 35 right now. So that's only a couple feet, 31 and something to 35.
Yeah,
32.
right. It's a little less than 4 feet, yeah.
So essentially, we're making a non-conforming building even more non-conforming.
That's why the variance is required, exactly.
They're just extending the wall there.
So it's not.
They're enclosing the space, they're, where the truck is poking out there. Then you have the front yard loading area. So loading areas are supposed to be in rear yards, but there isn't a rear yard here. So their loading area is primarily in a side yard, but it does poke into the front yard. So that would require a variance as well. One thing that could potentially eliminate the need for that variance is if the planning commission decided that a smaller loading space was warranted, but of course that is your decision to make, and they have to show that.
What did you say?
You have some discretionary ability to reduce the size of a required loading area in the ordinance, but they have to demonstrate to you that there's a reason to reduce that.
What is the loading area in this particular medical office building / operating place for outpatient for?
So it's for deliveries, essentially. It's not meant to be like a drop-off space or anything like that. It is
Not
for,
ambulances?
no.
Okay.
It's for someone who is delivering something to the building to park their truck and wheel in whatever they're delivering into the building.
So let me just understand, so because this existing building and the proposed to the north is one lot, and we only have one loading area, right? There's no loading area planned for the.
Right.
So what's the proposal for deliveries that are intended for the new property?
Right, so if there's one loading area and it's here, then you would assume that someone delivering something to the northern building would use this loading area and the sidewalk to get to the other building.
But is that practical? Is that possible? That sidewalk is 5 feet wide and there's a set of 2 steps, you make a turn, and then there's 3 steps. That's not gonna
Nothing that you're wheeling would be practical. I mean, something you were carrying, you could certainly do it, but it's obviously
That's
a
not
longer
gonna
trip. But yeah, anything that you have on wheels, those steps would be an obstacle.
And as you're looking at this loading area, if anyone's been to this, if you've been to this facility and you look, so the entry right now is in the center of that side of the building, and it's a door. It's not a huge door. And now the loading area is going to be really in the main driveway. The Fishbeck memo, I mean, it says, I mean, this is not like a small operation. This is, the proposed medical office building will house specialty plastic surgeons and will have one floor dedicated to patient care, one floor which will operate as a surgical center. And patients can visit from follow-up visits up to 5 hours for a procedure. So you can have a fair amount of activity in this size building, roughly, what is this, 10,000 square foot. So this is a building that's gonna have a fair amount of activity where the loading zone, there is no loading zone on the north side, and it's here, and it's right in the front of, that's the only entry to the building. So just considerations.
And Chairman, a medical surgical place is the one that doesn't have the loading zone, so.
No, it does. No, it does have.
Where the surgery has the loading zone?
Yeah, so that's this building.
It's gonna be the first one.
Right. So it's the building on the north
Oh,
that
so it's
does
gonna
not.
be administration that doesn't have the
Right.
loading zone.
Now,
Right.
one consideration as we're looking at this, so the building on the north, there's 19 spaces of underground parking. Now, much of the underground parking is below the parking lot. Will you go back to the site plan?
Yes. Back there.
So,
So trying to find a front site here. Slides.
so you're talking about delivery, so you see where that number 4 is? So you've got all this underground parking that is now, it's actually, you'd have to look at, there's other plans, but this just gives you a general idea. Underneath, like where that 4 is, or a little bit to the, more or less that far, there's actually parking there. Now, there's engineering requirements. So basically, they're supporting the parking lot. They're building a floor. And you can build floors, with steel. You put, the design of this is to have 6 inches of concrete on a metal pan, which you can do that. However, when you get into those, and I looked at the comps, and they had someone else, if you look at the comps, you're limited, but we'll look at to the applicant, you're limited in terms of weight that you can put on this space. And so now, we'll have to look to the applicant to say, but you're limited in terms of weight that you can put on this parking lot, because below it, you've got parking spaces. And so if you're relying on deliveries to the north building, that needs to be a consideration too, because the only way to get to the north building is through the parking lot, through the entry, and you're going to be driving on top of the parking, the underground parking. And so that's another question that I think we need to look at.
Are you saying the loading zone is on top of the?
Well, I'm saying
ramp?
that, actually, what I'm saying is there is no loading zone for the north building. Now, the applicant says, and we have to weigh all this. So the applicant's view is, well, we're not going to need much loading for the north building. So they have no loading zone. What I'm pointing out is, as you look at, one of the questions that just surfaced was, well, if you use the lower building for the loading, Well, are you gonna walk down the sidewalk with a cart all the way up to the north building? Probably not. Maybe someone in your office will, but, I don't know. So actually what's gonna happen is people are going to use that, they're gonna just come in the driveway. But remember where that 4 is, or more, we'll have to look at.
Which color?
the-
Blue or red?
No, that one, that
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah, there's parking underneath there. And so, and it's spec'd out in the plans, but if you look at the way it's spec'd out, and we'll have to look at, to the architect, how much weight you can put on that parking lot. So for example, if you have a heavy truck, you know, you could jeopardize, you often, I guess we'll have to see what kind of remedy they're gonna propose to alert people to load limits on that parking lot. And if you're gonna be loading something into that building, you know, just the weight limits, that sort of thing. So, sort of another loading, not to take too many side turns here, but relevant to the
You're
stretch.
suggesting that to be something like over at the Birmingham Post Office, that office building has, you know, a chain going across, you can't go under, you can't come through here if you're taller than.
Well, that, or you may have a weight limit. And so what
Well, that could help
what some facilities
eliminate
do,
trucks that are
they
too tall,
put
yeah.
in, you've seen those metal.
Yellow
they're-
things.
Those metal, like, they're,
Yellow metal
Arches.
hanging.
yeah, they're arches.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the
Oh,
ones over by
okay.
Birmingham.
Yeah,
Yeah, on
which,
Haynes Street
which
or whatever.
aren't aesthetically really appealing. But, you know, all considerations which were in those notes that I think you're gonna plan on
They are,
discussing.
yes, exactly.
Okay,
I just wanted to give you a sense of what the footprint of that underground parking is, because you got your ramp going down. And this is essentially mirroring the underground parking.
actually, I don't
is
think,
pretty much, it comes down 2 spaces south of this staircase right here. So it's
yeah, it's,
essentially this area right here is the underground cutout. It's under these rows of parking, and it goes south to here-ish roughly. A little.
you
south.
you probably got one of that diagram later on in your presentation. Okay, because that's gonna be relevant. Okay, so maybe that's the whole loading discussion, and maybe we can go on to the next item.
Yeah, well, the next item is actually also loading. Because it's the slide that talks about the lack of loading for the northern building. Because the way the ordinance is worded, it does talk about each building having loading associated with it. So that item 4 for ZBA consideration was the lack of a loading zone for the northern building. So it's been alluded to a few times, there were some PC subcommittee items, and we've tried to lay out how the applicant has or has not responded to each one of these items. So banked parking spaces must be shown on the plans. Those are shown on the plans at this point. The line weights were darkened to show the layout of those banked spaces more clearly. Parking accessibility. So the provision of a pedestrian pathway connection between the parking lots. They are now showing a 5-foot pedestrian pathway. As was noted, there are some steps over on the High Oak side, but there is a pathway there now.
So it's not a ramp.
It is not a ramp.
So,
Not a
in, I guess, 2 points with respect to this is, from an ADA compliant point of view, those steps would negate that.
Well, that's correct. So there's
So-
2 different ways you can get up that
Right.
hill. One is a ramp and one is steps. And obviously, steps would be a barrier. The slope of a ramp could also be a barrier as well. So I don't know exactly what grade difference they're dealing with there, but they may not be able to make the slope.
Right.
So at
Okay.
your
There's no way to
previous meeting,
crisscross.
this was already discussed with the architect that it wasn't ADA compliant and they still came back with steps?
There was no path previously, and a
And they-
path has been
So
added.
they added a path but with steps?
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
Now, one other consideration with respect to this is just the aesthetic element, because now they've taken the sidewalk that's going into, and they're entitled to, but we ought to be thinking about the aesthetic element, because now this is a concrete sidewalk that's going to be run out into the setback area.
Sure.
And with all these steps. And I guess everyone can make their own decision about the aesthetic appeal of a bunch of concrete steps.
Sure, and we can go back to the landscape plan later on to see how they're handling that, or if they.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the landscape plan
so-
that showed.
Is in this study that they have of random study, very important study that says we don't need a lot of parking spaces? When people are applying for jobs at the office space in the north building, and they also want to be involved with surgeries or consultations or with everything going on at the south building, how are they supposed to get to that place? So we just say no one in a wheelchair need apply? Because this Bloomfield Hills is going to, we got steps again?
I guess, I don't know, maybe we can just,
Well, I'm guessing that
understand
the people that are working at the medical building will park at the north building and walk, hopefully be able to walk to the south building, and then the people who are visiting the medical facility can use the regular parking lot.
So
Easily accessible
we're
parking
gonna,
lot that has.
we're being asked to approve of something where people who might be working over the office building can't get to the other office building, where the surgeries are. They have to stay in their office building.
So-
wherever they park there. Or they have to get
you know,
back
we're
in
not
their
gonna
car.
resolve all those questions, but Joe should go on. Go ahead,
I
Dave.
was just gonna ask if we can have Joe get through his
Yeah.
presentation. A lot of this really, I think, could be directed to the applicant. A lot of questions are certainly that Joe's not gonna know, but the applicant will, and it just would help, I think, move things along.
Okay.
So confirmation of parking availability, so room for all the required spaces was needed to be shown on the plans. That is shown now. Confirming ADA space requirements are met. So there are 2 ADA parking spaces for each building. And if you take the 2 lots that are proposed to be built now, that would be sufficient. If you take the southern lot or the southern building on its own and you consider the banked parking as well, there would need to be a 3rd space. So how that gets handled is something that needs to be discussed. Site access and circulation. So the ordinance has parking garage circulation dimensions, just the same as lots. Lower level improvements. Does the elevator provide access to the lower level, and is ADA accessibility requirement met? So the applicant has added notes to their submission package that required ADA spaces will be at grade, so that elevator access isn't required to the lower level. And they are essentially testifying that they are going to be meeting ADA requirements there. Other subcommittee items, building setbacks. So confirming the minimum setback was met. That's referring to the north. Any and all overhangs and cantilevers comply with setback requirements. So that setback dimension of 35 feet to high oak is now provided on the plan. That was not labeled before, so they are showing that. And then we talked about the setbacks to the north earlier. Plans for rooftop patio space, mechanical equipment, they did provide some of those. There was originally a room up there, but that was not compliant with the ordinance, so that has been removed. What they're showing is a planter and essentially a little outdoor patio up there with some planter boxes and a stairwell. The building elevations and confirming adequate screening. So they do have the correct average grade that's been verified. The height dimensions of the building are shown and are to scale. And the average grade line is represented in green there, that kind of neonish green at the bottom of the building. And you can see under that neon green line where the ramp comes down into that underground parking space as well. The loading area, the new building has no loading area. They opted to note that they will pursue a variance for that standard rather than adding a loading area to the north building. Building height, so that's calculated based on average grade. They do have the average grade correct. The height dimensions are shown and confirmed. For signage, they are not pursuing signage at this time. Lighting poles should be adjusted to comply with code requirements, so we have a 20-foot height limit. The PC can approve higher if necessary, but they have lowered everything to 20 feet or less in height. South building elevation should be provided, so we did not have elevations of the existing building. We have the floor plans here, just so that you can see what they're showing for the interior of that building. That converted space, I was trying to remember what it was called earlier, special procedure area is what they're calling it. But that's what would be where those parking spaces are now. And then you've got consulting rooms and the other typical things that you would have in a medical practice. The south building, so a full ordinance review of that south building that was conducted. So full review of the south building determined that there is an existing nonconformity with that southern setback, and that the change of use from office to medical increases the parking requirement as outlined in the review letter. And that actually brings us to the engineering slides. I don't know that there's much for you to say, but if you'd like to.
I'll stay right here. No, this, from an engineering perspective, I understand the issues that Joe has enumerated for you. From our perspective, the site plan is the same. They're meeting 100 degree retention. They meet your standards from an engineering perspective. But there's a lot of other issues.
Would you like?
Get to those versus belaboring the engineering side.
Would you like me to park this on the full site plan?
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that. We can take a look at the landscaping plan on the way back. You can see the path there where the steps are. There's one spruce tree. So I know that you were talking about how that presents aesthetically. That is an area that you might consider for additional screening or hedges or something like that. And then going back, we have this image, which shows the full layout of the site, which can be referred to, and if we need to go to any other slide, we certainly can. And with that, if you want to talk to me about anything else,
No,
certainly. But,
I've got a lot of questions, but I think maybe we'll just wait for the applicant.
Sure.
And then run through all of them together.
Sounds good.
You guys good with that?
Before the applicant comes up, can I address just this one letter from, to Dave from Jeff King, Director of Public Safety, that was in our packet? So, can you address this letter?
So we asked the public safety director, the public safety departments to make sure that they can provide public safety services, including fire suppression. And they have the equipment and the ability to do so. The building itself is not any really different than any building around. There's access through High Oak. We have a ladder truck. There's access through the south parking lot. There's also access on the west side. The access on Long Lake's a little difficult because the power lines, but fire suppression can be attacked from at least three sides, and there shouldn't be an issue with any of the public safety. So,
Is it normal to, that you're building buildings where electric cars aren't allowed to park?
well, yeah, it's another part that
Underground.
we're concerned about. I thank you for bringing it
Yeah.
up. So I don't know if the applicant is planning a charging stations below, but that was concern of the public safety department because it's difficult to put a electric car out if it's on
I'll say good afternoon, but we may be at evening already, I'm not sure.
There you
So, Kevin Biddison Architecture, 320 Martin Street, Birmingham, Michigan. I'm here with building and site owner, if you have any specific questions for them, but I appreciate the opportunity. I think probably the task for me at the moment is maybe to jump in and just try to hit some of the concerns and things that have come up. I think you have a general idea of the project. Those that have been involved in the previous meetings obviously have a little bit better handle on what's going on with the project. I'll start just general with things like ADA compliance for this site. Both of these buildings are fully compliant with ADA. They both have required parking spaces for those. They both have access to the buildings, to the front doors as ADA. So as far as the code is concerned, both of these buildings meet ADA compliance in parking and access to the building and access between floors inside the building. The loading zone issue, we are asking for a variance on the north building and the south building in terms of location of the zoning ordinance. We feel, first of all, the 40 by 50 foot space is based on a semi-use. No semi is going to be in either one of these sites. The south building has never actually had a loading zone on it. FedEx, UPS, Federal Post Office, those are the only deliveries that are going to happen at these buildings. These are an engineering company and a plastic surgeon's office. The plastic surgeon's office, they get small boxes, small pieces and parts of things from UPS and other things like that. So the delivery sequence to these buildings is going to be 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out. That's the kind of deliveries that are going to happen here.
Medical waste?
There is really, sure, but that's.
But again, you say that's a smaller truck.
Those are small trucks in and out. That stuff is packaged by the door, and literally, there shouldn't be anything more than a 5-minute delivery at either one of these buildings. These are, maybe a signature required, and that's it. So the need for a huge loading zone for either buildings just doesn't exist. The only time you would ever have a truck larger than a UPS truck on one of these sites might be on move-in day. And MA Engineering is going to be housed in the north building, so this is going to be their home. They're currently in the south building. They're not going to be moving. This is going to be long-term location for them. The tenant that they have, the medical tenant that they have lined up for the south building is currently, they have told us that they need no more than 28 spaces for their operation. They have a very limited staff, and they have a lot of long-term users from several hours. Someone drops someone off, someone comes to pick them back up 4 or 5 hours later after a surgery. They do not have big waiting rooms for those people to sit and wait for them. These are in and out users, and literally the 39 spaces that exist on the southern building will not be used by them. They do not need them. That's why through this whole process we're happy to show that we can provide the full 89 spaces. We would prefer to keep those 15 spaces on the banked parking as green area. We see no need. We have the ability in the new underground water retention in the south parking lot to handle the 15 spaces, so all of that's engineered in. But the intent for the owner is to never build those unless at some future date there was either an office or a medical user that needed those spaces, and then that's why they're there.
So that was confusing in the paperwork. You're saying that the people who are leasing the existing building are moving to another building They're staying there?
The current property owner is in the south
Is in
building.
the south building?
The new building is where he is going to be moving.
Okay.
His office. Then he has this plastic surgeon's office
Will be
that would
separate.
be in the south building. That's a
Okay.
separate business.
So two separate leases,
Two separate buildings, yeah.
two separate buildings, two separate.
One is owner
companies.
occupied, the other would be a tenant. The medical would be a tenant.
Thank you.
So just back to the use of the buildings, again, these are really separate use buildings from the tenant that is going into the south building currently. They will not use the parking lot that is there. They will not fill that. And we have no reason to believe that they're going to be coming up to the north to utilize that parking lot. But both parking lots have the required amount of barrier-free parking spaces. The loading zone we talked about briefly, again, not something that we ever see anyone using outside of small in and out truck delivery service. The front yard setback that we are asking for along Long Lake, there is a diagram in your packet that shows all of the buildings on that side of the road in Long Lake, all of those existing buildings prior to these calculations that have been used. They all line up at 75 feet or closer. We are actually farther away than all of the other buildings that are adjacent to us on both sides and down the street. We feel it's a very legitimate ask to allow us to line up, actually be farther away than all of the other buildings that are along there. And many of those buildings would not meet the same criteria in terms of the applied formula. If it was used, they were built at different times. So we felt that was a legitimate ask. The south setback, which is number 2 there on your drawing, again, there are 2 existing brick piers on either side of the 3 spaces that are underneath that building. We are literally building a brick wall between those 2 piers to enclose that 500 square foot space to allow that to be used as part of an operatory room on the first floor. Yes,
What kind of room on the first floor?
it's an operatory, a procedure room.
A procedure room, okay.
Enclosed.
And that 5, what road are we looking at when we're looking at what you just talked about, enclosing those spaces? What road is seeing that?
There's no road that's looking at that faces the parking lot. Concord Drive faces the side of the building to the below where it says number 2 there.
Yeah.
So there is no road that faces those spaces. That just faces internally to the parking lot and the property to the west. So again, we feel that this is such a minor addition to an existing non-conforming dimension that's been there since this building was built, 20 years or so. I don't know exactly what the year this building was. We're not proposing anything that's going to be affected visually from roads or physically extending past what's already non-conforming. The structural conversation about the north lot, there's absolutely 0 issues with anything structural there. This will be designed to meet all the criteria that's necessary. If you're familiar at all with parking structures are only 40 pounds a square foot. They're less than an office floor. So it surprises most people to know that vehicles do not take the same amount of weight as desks and file cabinets and people that walk corridors in a building. So there's absolutely no concern. It'll be designed as it's required to be designed, and it's just, there isn't a concern there from a structural standpoint.
So in reality, if the north building needs a new computer dropped off, a UPS truck will go to their front door and drive on top of their parking.
They actually wouldn't be driving. I mean, their front door is in the upper right corner where it's gray.
Okay.
To the right of where the 1 is, And straight south of that, you see where the ramp that goes into the underground parking. To the right of that is a sidewalk that goes up into the entry of the building. They would not be driving underneath the building. They cannot drive underneath the building. So
They just park on
they would be
High Oak.
doing what they do in every other parking lot in this city, is they pull up to a curb, they run in with their truck, and they run back out 5 minutes later.
So
That's,
they park on High Oak and then run it in. Got it.
they'll sit in the driveway for 5 minutes. I mean, that's what happens. It's just, they're not gonna go around the building, they're not gonna even drive on the area that we're talking about, even though they could, but.
If they can, okay.
Sure. Because other vehicles will be parked there, so. The steps that we provided between the buildings, again, we don't see any real connection in actuality in terms of how these two properties are gonna operate and these two businesses. But we did add the sidewalk as requested to connect the two, just so that if, I don't ever see an instance with this existing tenant that they're working with and the existing business that's going up on north, that they will be parking in that north parking lot, but we've given them that access if that was needed. If there's more landscaping or something that's suggested around those stairs, I'm sure there's no issues with doing that. Wasn't addressed at that point. But we're not using this as a delivery point. We're not using those steps and that as somebody who's going to be in a wheelchair and trying to get from one building to the other. The buildings basically are going to operate independently of each other. That's the reality of how the site will work. The two businesses really have no connection to each other than one person owns both buildings. There were a couple other comments. There are a couple of columns that did not make it into the rendering. They're on the elevations and everything. The renderings were done at another time and printed, so.
Can you show us where those are?
Yeah, they're basically.
In this, because this isn't showing us, but on one of your, the photos?
Yeah, we have them on the floor plans and stuff, or if you want to look at the
They're not
elevations.
consistent in the-
There's a couple of those that sit on the retaining wall that goes down into the,
I'm just saying,
to the
can you
driveway.
click to what I'm looking at? I'm looking at a floating building. I'm looking at a floating building without snow.
you have a floor plan on here?
Like that one right there. So you can just point, what's missing from that picture?
So what's missing from this picture and what's on the elevations, I think the elevations are in this.
It's okay,
Pull
we'll
those
check.
up.
You're the architect.
There's one here, and I think there's one here. All of these exist, and.
So
that's what
it's
you
not
see from the
floating.
road.
There are how many posts on that side that are holding up that elevation at your,
The majority of the elevation is held up by the end,
the brown building?
where you see those,
Okay,
okay? So the building structure is, for lack of a better term, a T shape, so that it's spanning across and it's
so most of the building is being held up by those four posts there?
correct. It's being held up by the floor structure and the roof structure that cantilevers over that. They're,
Okay,
This shows six.
yeah. I'm seeing
This shows six, and there's three over here.
correct. So these,
So that's not correct either, right? That shows four, so there's actually six there, right?
Those four are from the south end of the building?
So
yeah,
that's
those are here.
okay, so there's six, that's four. And then we've got
A100, Susan?
1, 2,
So these line up with each other.
So you've
would
got
see these
posts all
three
along
that you
there.
would see on that
You've
side.
got posts.
Can you show where the other posts would be on this perspective, on the right?
They would be over here underneath, sitting on
Yeah.
How many? Right
the, there'd be three of them.
1, 2, 3, yeah, an A100.
So they're on the ramp that goes This wall, there's a ramp, there's a wall on this side of the ramp, so they sit on that. They're not out here, they're underneath on this side of the ramp.
Oh, so you don't see
To the
them?
left of the car?
No, you see them.
You see
You
them.
see them from the road.
So you see them from the road.
Yeah, let me
And
show the
Kind of
elevation.
surrounding that white car? The nose of the white car?
6, I should be there, not 4.
Let me see if I can, I'm gonna,
A100, 110, no, A100.
I thought you had a elevation here.
There you go.
Okay.
So
Well,
there are
kinda-
1, 2,
it's
3,
a little bit hard to see, but you
And
can
then-
see them here.
2, 3. These right here?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, here's,
So those are the posts that I couldn't find on the photo, because I was surprised by the floatiness of it. So I have one
Yeah, it was
post
just
there,
Timing when everything was
another
put together.
post there, another post, and then on the pretty rendering, it shows 4 holding up that building, but you've had to actually put in 6 to hold up that.
Actually, the 6 don't, they're not all structural, so,
For show?
yeah.
Interesting. So, how do you with, in building I'm sure you've built in Michigan before, how do you build an open parking lot, with all of the, wind and snow coming into the parking lot? Do you, that really tight drive in, you have the ability to bring a snowplow in there to get the snow out of it? I mean, I look at the Bloomfield Park.
You'd have a pickup snowplow like I have at the office building I'm in right now.
Because I mean, I've grown up with the parking of, underground parking that is in the building over, what are we gonna say, is that Bloomfield Parkway? Bloomfield Parkway, that huge office, is it the lawyer's office, right? That has underground parking, but and I'm not sure that this is opposed to you putting walls there so that you don't have snow, and rain coming into your.
I guess I'm not following you. It's no different than a surface parking lot. It's not under a building. Part of this is under the building, part of it's not. You're simply gonna have a snow service that comes in and takes out the snow.
Well, I've also grown up with an underground parking in the art van building that was always, not understanding why there was an open parking lot. Now it's fixed, with the new tenant. It looks really good, but I don't understand when the city was like, oh, now you're not compliant because you put in this one wall. Are you opposed to putting in more walls? I mean, is that cause a problem for you in closing this so that it's,
What would-
it's
there's-
not open?
There isn't a requirement to screen that parking lot. I mean, if it's no different than if it was a surface parking lot. I'm not following. I mean, the building across the road from it has, I don't know, 20 parking spaces. There's no screening to it. I mean, a 2-foot-high hedge. I don't understand. I'm not following the question. It's just a parking lot.
Let me address some questions. I guess I'd like to go back into the
Back to the
items.
site plan?
I want to go back into, like, the list of questions.
Sure.
So, honestly, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with some of these things that I could get into a final approval. Let's look at this underground parking. I want to look at page, and I don't know if you have this stuff up.
It's a
Joe,
A1.
I didn't see it here, so.
A100, can we get the page A100 on here? Oh, well, if it's okay, I mean, I've got the pages, I thought they were loaded up here. They're not, okay, so let me.
There's a plan in there too
No, I've
that
got
doesn't have the
plans. I just
structure on
wanted
it.
to display them for everyone. Okay.
If you want to look
so-
at it, and it shows the spaces.
This is what I'm seeing. So as I'm looking at the site, and we've discussed this a couple of times. The considerations I have are the elevation in terms of its views from High Oak. And maybe if we look just at the can we get to that page?
You want that elevation again?
Yeah, let's look at that. Maybe that's a good starting point. Let's look at the color rendering.
Sure.
Let me just get to my notes. So, unique building, and as I look at it, what we've got is, we've got a ramp that's going down, and in front of that ramp, there's actually, we're not talking about, but there's a 4-foot glass partition with some kind of railing sitting on top of that partition, I'm assuming. It's not.
It's a 1-inch square aluminum cap.
So, and it encloses the entirety of that ramp going down.
Correct.
And then there's stairs that are like where that red car is. And
Yes.
all of that's enclosed by this glass partition. So that's one consideration. And then as I'm looking, as we're going down the road, you're going to be looking into this parking area. And while we don't see it now, to the right of the structure that's in the center of the building, those are actually parking places that both face High Oak and face the west property building. So while this displays some kind of tree or bush in the back, you're not going to see that. What you're going to see is you're going to see cars.
I think if
well,
you
pardon
see the
me.
car to the left of the vertical piece that's in the middle, there's a car there that's on the opposite side of the ramp. So
It's behind
this
the
car
ramp.
here is on the opposite side of.
Yeah,
These
so,
are the cars that are.
no,
on the
actually,
outside.
to the right of that, so,
Here,
yeah, so there's going to be 4 cars.
there's 2 cars here.
Well, and there's 2 cars on the other side facing so the bottom line is, while they're not depicted here, you are going to see vehicles that are parked in that space. So, and you're also going to see them on the left-hand side of the partition that's going up. So, as I'm looking at this, what I see is, right now I'm seeing landscaping, but really what we're going to be seeing is a parking lot underneath this building. And what the ordinance says, is it talks about parking. It talks about in the C1, O1, O2 district, off-street parking, what we ought to be concerned about is views to and from the parking lot, the amount of landscaping provided to screen views of vehicles. And so, as I'm looking at this, what I see is we've got a couple of buildings in the city where there is underground parking. And one of them is actually that building, the Comerica building, which the entire north side of the building, it's all underground parking. And there are hedges that are like 7 to 8 feet tall. And so you do not see the screening. The next thing is, you mentioned during our subcommittee meeting that you worked on the art van building. And I looked at that. And what you did there was the art van building, originally that building had parking on the first floor. And I've got images of it, both before and after. And as you looked at it before, you saw all the cars. And what you did on that building, which I thought was tastefully done, is you screened in the entire lower level, so
Really
you don't
pretty.
so you don't see the parking. So as I'm looking at this building, what I see is, while there's posts that exist that aren't shown here, getting past that, I'm seeing a building where I'm gonna be seeing I'm gonna be seeing cars below it. So, based on what the master plan and based on our ordinance, I'm inclined to want to see, just as we have with the building where Comerica and Honigman are, I would want to see this screened in, because I don't want to see the cars.
So I have a general question for you.
But I've got a bunch of questions, so, I just want to just run through the comments. So that's an elevation issue just from the start. If we could go back then, and I guess I'm going to have to do this since it's not on the screen, maybe just looking at the plan. So what we have is, we've got this ramp going down into this parking area. And so this ramp, this is 20 feet wide. So I want everyone to think about a parking space. When you're parking your car, your parking space minimum is 9 feet. And when you park, sort of like if you try to park your car in our lot here, you gotta be careful who you're parking next to, and that they don't have too wide a vehicle. I Googled it. An Escalade is roughly 8 feet wide with its mirrors, so maybe a little bit wider. I don't drive a big Escalade, but I know some people do, or Yukons. So this provides for two-way traffic. This is 20 feet wide, and to get these, and then you come down to this. You're making like a 270-degree turn here. I don't know physically how two cars going, if there's a car coming out of here and a car going down here, if you got a Yukon coming this way, and you got a Yukon going this way, someone's gonna be backing up.
So this is it's a private parking lot. The underground parking will be for partners and a few people inside the building. The underground parking is not for anyone that's visiting the site. It's gonna be utilized by the owner and people that are specific people in his office. And if I could just finish. A 20-foot drive is more than sufficient for this. Your own ordinance on a one-way parking on one side of a drive goes down to 20 feet. I live in a building that I drive in and out of every day of the week that has a 20-foot underground drive. I pass cars every day. It's a completely acceptable dimension.
I'm just gonna keep on running. I appreciate your comment. So I guess the presumption where you have a building is that you've got parking that's available to the masses. I mean, we're assuming, we're coming up with parking availability. If you're just now saying that 19 of the spaces aren't available.
They don't need to be. Those can be
Well,
parking spaces for the occupants of the building. There's 21 spaces on the upper.
I guess so they're restricted use. I think we've got, I don't know, I guess that's interesting. So we have an ordinance, though, that says we're supposed to know what the circulation is of traffic in this building.
Engineering has looked at these plans.
Well, actually, according to the letter, there was no study done. I mean, that's what this letter says. I don't know where that letter is. No, the planner's letter.
Are you returning to, you're referring to item 9 on?
Yeah, what does that say? Yeah, so,
That was relative to trucks on the site.
no, actually, I asked that question twice over the last 7 months. And I asked, when I saw this particular, condition.
Provide that, because I know it works, so I'm not concerned about it.
so based on your own diagram, I'm not sure how these vehicles get down. I guess the next consideration I have is, so the entryway coming into here is right across, right on top of this parking. And so, what's the load, what load is allowed on this parking?
For the parking itself, there's a 40-pound load, live load that's.
So how large a vehicle could you put on top of this?
As I stated, this entire structure will be engineered to meet whatever is necessary. A parking structure is 40 pounds a square foot.
No, I get it.
So-
I looked at the numbers, and so what this is prepped for is passenger cars. So I guess the question becomes, and I read, one of the things I asked for was, there's this requirement in the ordinance that says, and I did read the letter from Public Safety, which said, we didn't do a study, but we looked at other buildings in the city. And so I'm not sure I understand exactly what that means, because we have a wide range of buildings in the city. Some were built 60 or 70 years ago. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but under today's code, what I'm accustomed to is seeing for a public building that we do a study. Now, what our ordinance says is driveways and parking lots must be designed to provide access and circulation for fire trucks, garbage trucks, delivery vehicles, and other large vehicles that would be expected to use the property. Dimensions for turning movements by these vehicles must be shown on a plan prior to the issuance of a building permit. Turning movement dimensions must be provided to provide safe and adequate access to loading spaces and waste receptacles. Now, I'm not sure how deep the public safety department delved into this. They didn't, from what I gleaned from the memo, they did their best. They didn't do a complete fire marshal study, which I've seen in other communities. We didn't do that here. But what I did hear is that they may be able to access this building from the south side. But on the south side, you've got actually 30 feet south of the building, there's a parking lot underneath. And so if you structure the parking, the surface of the parking to accommodate a passenger vehicle, so it may well, I'm with you. I understand the parking structure and that it can accommodate a passenger vehicle, but I don't know that if all of a sudden a heavy tow truck or some emergency vehicle runs out on top of that weighs.
We have to design this to meet all of those requirements. That would be a
So,
requirement
I
per
guess-
code. We have to do that.
So,
We're gonna have a garbage truck that needs to go to that garbage thing is. This will be
Exactly.
designed to carry that.
but, so my question is, I looked at your live loads here. I'm not sure this, based on what I'm seeing,
I'm telling you, this will be designed to
so
meet
what
that
you're saying
criteria.
is you may not use what you've shown here.
It will exceed that.
Okay, but I'm looking at your plans.
I get it, so,
Pardon
okay,
me.
so,
I'm looking at your plans with your specs, and if you run these through, I think what you'd find is this is acceptable to accommodate passenger vehicles. I think you'd find if you ran these numbers through to find out if you could handle a 30-ton garbage truck, you might find that this doesn't do that.
Well, actually, the garbage truck doesn't drive over that area.
Well, I
So-
don't know. It seems like if it's coming in, if
Not
it's,
that it couldn't, but it does.
Well,
I mean,
it-
it comes in, it drives in.
it's gonna
here,
be,
picks
actually,
that
it's
up,
gonna,
and
it's gonna
drives out.
be, it's gonna be right on top of that area.
That area doesn't go beyond here.
It goes 30 feet south of the
It does
building.
not go beyond that.
Could I jump in on discussion, please? Sure. My name is Salim Sassi, and I am the owner of both property I will occupy. We will not design anything that jeopardize or expose us for liability. So if we need to design it for a truck load to drive over it, it will be designed by the structural engineer to accommodate that traffic. We will not. You think I wanna jeopardize my for liability insurance and everything because of the truck moving in? So we will design it. We will have subject expert matters, which is a structural engineer and civil engineer, to tell us what to do for this stuff.
And that's fair. So just so you understand,
I totally understand.
five weeks ago, I asked a lot of these questions. And I still have these same questions. And so, we have different levels of planning approval. We have preliminary approval and final approval. And I've only covered a couple of my questions so far, but these, to me, so I'm looking first at the front elevation of this building. As I look, so this is the building that Comerica is in.
Okay.
Comerica and Honigman. So this is all parking structure. And so what they've done is you don't see the cars. And the next thing about this building, you have to consider, we have two front elevations here. So this is the front elevation. Not only along like the front elevation, this is a front elevation. And as I look at this plan, this is just me, one guy, but we have other properties in the city that could be redeveloped. If someone came and said, geez, we want to put this on Woodward, and you're going to see all these cars underneath, that's the front elevation. And I just want you to understand my view. So I'm looking at this building, and I see all their parking here, but you don't see the cars. The next building I want to look at this is the building you told me about. You did this building. And when I looked at our van, what I see, and when I look at this building, I see a bunch of cars. You came back and you fixed that. You obscured that. And so, as I look at your building, personally, I'm concerned about the view from High Oak. I'm also concerned about the engineering here. You can tell me that you're going to be able to get you're going to get the Escalade coming at the Yukon down the end of that path, and that they're going to be able to turn around each other. What we do typically is in our city, if you want a gate, if you're a residential house and you want a gate, we expect a turnaround so that if a vehicle shows up, that a vehicle can turn around. And what we look to is the engineer to provide that certification. And that's what, personally, until I see that sort of thing, I'm not comfortable because my common sense tells me if I've got a 20-foot wide path with the size vehicles that get driven today, and you know, when you talk about weight, geez, a Lyric today weighs what, weighs nearly 4 tons or 3.5 tons with all the batteries. And we've got more and more of those vehicles. And so, you know, things have changed a lot. So I need to get comfortable personally that, well, I understand as owner, you're not gonna put yourself in a position, I get it, but you're asking at least me to pass on a plan which intuitively doesn't make sense to me.
Seriously, let's talk about parking. If you drive down this street here, there is a major parking here for this road. You're looking at parking, it's not screened. All the parking here, you take the drive down, it's all car park and entrance is here.
With all due respect,
We wanna be fair, we wanna be good residents of the space. We are engineer that work for building. We have multiple building we work on and stuff like this. So we're not here, and if you notice, we're trying to improve on it and try to do a little bit more renewable energy approach and more stuff. So what you're asking me, you look at the car here, when you drive down here, all the cars are parked here.
and so as you look at that.
Is it a fair assumption to
Absolutely.
see car here and not car here?
So what I'm offering to you is, on the south side of this, south of the building, those are exposed cars and you don't have an option. So we had a plan on this that was approved in 2019 that had underground parking. But the building, there was a facade, the building was completed. So you didn't have an exposed lower level. So my concern from an aesthetic point of view is we're looking below the building at all of the parking. And according to our ordinance, one of our base considerations is views from public right-of-ways. And I'm laying out my concerns because I laid them out and I just want to share them with you. So
we've been told we meet all of the screening, and I don't understand how the site across the street, which is 100% visible for 20 spaces or however much there are, with no screening, with no walls, it's got shrubs that are this high.
So let me.
You don't even cover half of the
because we could be
wheels.
here for a long. The building across the street, they took an existing building and turned it into an office.
Okay.
We're working with theoretically, so when you talk about variances, you're entitled to a variance. If there's a hardship, but one of the prerequisites is it can't be self-created. So in that sense, you're creating, you can build there was a plan for a building on this site that didn't have any variances. So the bottom line is, you can build a building on this site without requesting variances. Now, you're requesting variances because you want to build a bigger building or do something that requires variances. For example, you're requesting a variance not to put in a loading dock, partly because you just don't have the space. And that's one of the requirements. Now you can also make a reasoned argument that, well, maybe we don't need it, but you're also requesting other variances. In some of your variances, just so you understand, the one on the south side, the south building, where you're enclosing that, Now, I asked it, for the simple thing, I simply asked for a rendering of the building, and I have yet to get that.
Rendering for which one, sir?
A rendering of the building on the south side where you were enclosing it. I mean,
That's on me because I was not aware of that.
Well,
of
I'm
that
just,
ask,
so I'm just telling you, there's holes here. And so I also want you to know, there's different levels of approval, but I'm still not comfortable with, I mean, I read the ordinance to you. It requires that, yeah, I don't want to go through it. Turning movement dimensions must be provided. So I want to see that. I want to see the engineer show me, just like he does when we have a turnaround in a front yard, how you're going to get that Escalade coming at the
Not a
Yukon.
problem. I'll make
Okay.
sure that happens.
So then the next thing, so we talked about the elevation, in my concerns there. And actually, you could remedy some of that, if you could actually enclose that area, or you could do, what they did on the Honigmeg building.
We can certainly increase the height of that hedgerow that is
I
currently.
mean, so there's ways to accomplish,
Absolutely.
there's ways to fix these things. But I want to explain my concerns. Let's talk about landscaping while we're talking about hedges. So there's all these oak trees, and Norway pines, Norway spruces. And they're nice trees, actually. Why are you removing all those?
The trees that are up in the front, is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about? They were listed as poor and not good condition. They're not trees that long-term were going to
Actually,
survive. They're,
if you looked at them, they actually, I looked at
I'm
them.
just going by what
By
we were
some
told
of-
by the.
They actually provide
landscape
character to that area.
Can I ask a question for clarification to Dave? When we do this and they go out there, who determines if it's poor or bad or whatever? Their landscaper?
Yes.
A tree's
Yeah,
condition?
Yes.
We don't
Well, not landscaper, but,
An arborist or.
Yeah, they have to do a
the
tree
engineer.
survey.
certified arborist goes out?
Or it can be, actually, engineering firms, oftentimes, they don't have an arborist, but they'll have their own guy go out there and
we have a
do.
landscape architect.
So is this the city who did that?
No, it's on the engineering plan.
I just wanted clarification, thanks. I just-
So I guess, as I looked at your tree survey, and I saw all these trees coming down, I was curious, because they're not like in the building footprint. So, yeah.
Some of
all
them would
all
be
these
impeded
black-
by
So
wood.
black oak, black oak, black oak, black oak, black walnut, Norway spruce. I mean, these are all nice trees, and they're not like in the building, so I was curious about that.
Again, I'm telling you why. One, they were not in good condition. They were,
No, actually, these were all in good these are all in fair condition, so.
fair is not good. Fair is less than good.
So is it someone they hired who told them that it was in
Yeah.
fair condition? It's not the city?
Some of these are self-serving.
Okay, so, let me move on with some other questions.
If the city has an arborist, we'd be happy to have them take a look. I mean, that's,
I guess, some of it is discretionary though, right? And so, whether or not you take them down or not. Let's talk about ADA requirements.
okay?
So, under the rules, the number of spaces is determined by the parking requirements. So,
Correct.
the building on the south side, and what the rules say is it's determined based on the building and then it's building determined. So while we've got one site here, you still look at the individual buildings. So on the south side, that requires like 56 spaces. How many? 57. So under the rules, that requires 3 parking places, 3 ADA compliant parking places. But there's only 2. And so I had a question on that, and we're not going to resolve that this afternoon, but I'd like some attention given to that. The building on the north side, it has a requirement for what, Joe?
Parking requirement for the north side is 40.
Okay,
No,
so that requires 2. So according to the rules, there should be 3 on the south side and 2 on the north side. But we've only got 2 on the south side.
Well, they look at it as the site as a whole,
Well,
and there's and it goes up to 100 spaces for the
so
floor.
actually, I think,
Who's that?
and I guess what the rules say, where a site, building, or facility or space contains one or more use, each portion should comply, and it's actually done on a building-by-building basis. I guess I'd like a more definitive conclusion of why this rule is different than what you're saying. Because this says it's based on a building, not on the whole site. So that was my question about the ADA compliance.
Well, so following up that, so are we dealing with the ADA issue per building and not looking at connecting them? And so does this walkway and the steps matter? Does this
So actually,
suggestion of maybe?
well, actually, good question. Which is another, so this is just ADA compliant. I looked at the number of spaces and not the accessibility, because the rules are more directed towards the ADA spaces, Will, if that makes sense.
For parking? Because, I mean, one of the things that I'm just, and I don't know whether this is in the process that you're looking at all this, but for the ADA, it seems to me that if we're considering the access, the accessibility from one building to another, and I know that they're being treated separately, but I mean, we need to look at these, I think, not just for the current users, but for the future, right? I mean, you may move out and there may be new occupants, new owners here, and they may have a different need and use for getting from one building to another.
That's a great point, because they're relying on those spaces up there, and we're granting them medical use on this building now.
And it seems to me, and we've not discussed this in any of our subcommittee meetings, but and it might to some degree accommodate both the loading and the ADA issues if there was some sort of an elevator installed right around where the transformer pad is. Just a simple 2-story, I guess 1-story, just like a freight elevator that would allow a wheelchair to come up and down and move from one site to another, and maybe
A lift.
a lift, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure reasonably how that, I'm thinking winter time.
Well, I mean, they have that all downtown at the.
Actually, when I looked
That is
at
done.
and I saw you guys made the effort to put in the sidewalk there, I still look at this and wonder if anyone, you've already got steps in there, why you went all the way around out to High Oak and around. I mean, I think I looked at the grading plan, there's like a 3-foot drop in the grade. I don't know if you can,
It's more than that, and it's very difficult to get it
Is it?
through there, yeah. That's why previously they did it out in that area as well.
well, actually, under the old plan, they had the connection there.
No,
They-
it was out where ours is,
Was it?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I don't want to negate your ability to borrow spaces from the north side, so we need your help in making an assured connection so that you can legitimately borrow those spaces.
Yeah, I mean,
If-
I guess the way we're looking at it is that you have barrier-free spaces on both sites. So we're not expecting wheelchairs to be rolling from one site to another. I mean, that's,
Now, we get the current tenants, but
or
if it's a
or
different
ever, really. I
type
mean,
of
both
medical
buildings
facility,
have
they
the
may
ability to have barrier-free spaces. So if someone would be going back and forth, somebody might be walking.
But to Commissioner Hostler's point, though, ultimately, you could have a different user there whose demands are going to be different, and you're going to be expecting the availability, the parking on the north side to service the south building. So your tenant may only need 40 spaces, but the next guy, who's a medical user, maybe he's got an orthopedic guy, he's got an orthopedic practice, and they've got more expectation for accessibility, because actually when you look at these ADA rules, depending on the use, the number of spaces changes too. So once you get into that type of use, there's different levels. This is just the
So
basic.
if the medical use gets more intense than the medical use that's going to be in this building, or that would be if it was approved, that's what the banked parking is for, and it meets those numbers. So I'm guessing.
Well, except, and I'm just talking now, except you're still relying on the north lot, because you've got 41, but you don't need 40. You're
Sure, but
relying on that
I
access.
think there's a reasonable expectation that if 75% of the parking, or 80% of the parking spaces has access to barrier-free, you don't need the other 20%.
And
And that's why there's only a
You know
couple of
something?
spaces.
That sounds reasonable. We just gotta make sure it complies with the rules.
Sure.
I know right now, looking at the ADA rules, to me, this doesn't comply.
I mean, it does
Well-
currently with the parking lots that are there.
Well.
If you go to the 57, and if
so-
they're gonna
so-
look at it in that
So we
in that
agree
way.
that if you use 57, you need another space here.
I don't agree that it's not one site and that the 4 meet the site.
But you also
But if
argued
you're-
that this was two different leases, two different,
We've been told we have to look at this as one site.
Well,
That's what we've
but
been
there's
told.
different, okay.
So
There's different levels, though.
Okay.
So it's sort of like when we looked at the loading dock situation.
Uh-huh.
For that, it's determined on a building-by-building basis. It's not overall site. We're looking at the parking, which does have, it allows the availability of looking at the whole site. So,
Is this one legal description?
pardon me?
Is this one legal description?
It's one legal description.
So the buildings could never be
You know-
sold separately.
Right, now, could you I wonder at some point, I don't remember, when these got combined. And I was gonna look that up.
We were told that this could not be split again after it was combined. That's,
really?
I don't remember that it was combined, maybe it did, but and I'm not gonna go there, because I just look at this whole situation. This, in some respects, is, just from an investment point of view, would have been more suitable to have two different parcels You got different users and you could sell one and keep, but we're not there. We're talking now about applying the rules as they sit. We've got one site, it applies to the parking, it doesn't apply to the ADA, it doesn't apply to the loading dock situation, and there's other requirements too. So let me keep on going through here. So now we've got this we've got the patio on top of the building. So and I asked about the size of that and whether or not it was permitted under our ordinance.
I'm getting confused. Is that on the office building side or on the medical building?
That's on the office. They're
On the
putting it
building.
on top of the building.
Okay.
So, and it's really not depicted on the plan when you look at the elevation. So now we've got a patio on top of the building. So when we look at the elevation, it's not permitted. I mean, it's not shown on the elevation. I ask simple questions like, well, do you need a railing, and do you need, I don't know what other compliance requirements that would run with a rooftop patio, and didn't get any feedback. And Joe, at some point, I guess I'd like to get some feedback on the patio. There's actually a size limit in terms of what you can do on a patio, of what you can do on the roof. And we've already got a lot going on up there. And now we've got this patio space up there. And, I mean, do you have to have a railing up there? I don't know. I don't know what the requirements are. And these are questions that I asked, and I'm gonna look for answers on that.
So railings are required within 10 feet of a parapet for whether it's mechanical or whether it's roof hatches or anything else that goes on a roof. If you're within 10 feet, that's where that happens. We're going to have planters all the way around this, and even though this is depicting a smaller plant there, we had talked in our last meeting that we're going to provide taller plants so that you have a green screen for if someone's standing up there. So we're going to be providing, you know, more of like an arborvitae height plant that goes around there.
Because this, I looked at what was called out here, and it wasn't tall stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not what we discussed.
No,
So,
and I'm in agreement with that.
okay.
We talked
So,
about doing
again, these
taller
were questions
arborvitae.
that I laid out,
Yep.
and I guess I'd like to get some feedback on those.
Yep, that's our intent, yep.
Okay?
But don't the people on the roof want to be able to have a view? Or no?
Do we really want to see people driving by on a roof? We don't have one of these.
I don't know. I don't know what we
Kind of-
think. What do we think about people now using the roofs?
Oh, that happens in Troy. We can see people sitting outside their offices, but I've only seen it in Troy and Big Beaver, and that was recently. I was like, what the heck? But that's just recently. It's by the Virginia Towel Building. They had the Virginia Towel Building. They had outside seating property. Oh, not on the roof. You're right. Not on the roof.
Okay, so, let's see. Let's go back to the underground parking. So I asked several questions about the way, well, I'm thinking about looking at it from the south side. So I'm curious, and I asked these questions, how it was going to be finished. I've got, actually, I looked at two different, we don't have many examples like, there's only two buildings where you actually got underground parking that I'm aware of. We've got some like what we looked at before, the Comerica building. It's not really underground, it's like floor level.
Yeah.
But it's screened.
Yeah.
This is like underground, okay? And so when you're going down that deep, we've got two examples. One I saw was really nicely done. It's the building Dykema's in.
Okay.
And when you look down there, actually, it's much wider. It's probably, it may be 10 feet wider than this. There's a sidewalk on each side. So it's a more comfortable drive down. But they've got a brick veneer on each side, so it looks really attractive. Do you plan, you said you're gonna have this access restricted. Are you gonna have gates in here?
That wasn't the intention. Again, this is an owner-occupied building.
Okay, but, so if you're not going to have gates, so is the door gonna come down all, is there gonna be a door there? Obviously. So these were questions,
Oh, there's a door in front of where the red car is?
Basically,
No,
Or down low?
down in the bottom there would be,
Oh, got
okay,
could be a roll
so you're
down
gonna have a door down there.
Where's that in the turnaround thing? Where's that when you're going down this ramp?
Or just before
Is it, someone has to hit
This,
the door?
this would be to close this off at night, so that you're not.
Oh, sure.
But even during the day, you just said that you're going to restrict access to people who work there. So if you're gonna have restricted access, you've got to accomplish that in one of two ways.
Well, everyone that would be down there would be an employee of Salim's, and they would know who's gonna park
there a
down there,
wall
everyone
here?
else parks on the surface.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
So where's the gate, sir, on this one, as the two cars are where's the gate?
So there would be, the door
Oh.
would be here.
Right there, okay,
The door would be where?
right here.
This is where you would close that off.
I can't imagine putting a door there.
So there's a
Because
door there.
someone could,
and
someone's.
where do you have a cart
Wait
or
a second.
something?
Someone's gonna be driving down here. You're saying you're gonna drive down, someone could be up here and drive down here, and now you're gonna see a door, and what, this guy's gonna have to back up here? That doesn't seem reasonable at all.
Where,
If the door, I guess what's more customary is one of two things. You're either gonna have gates here, if you look.
Which is an option, we've talked about
Well,
that.
but if you're gonna start putting gates here, now you're looking at another visual element that you're gonna see from the main road. And these are, let's see.
I'm sorry, is this wall, this door, like, I go into CIBC, right, bad one. We kind of pull off the driveway, the door goes up, it's glass, so you can see through, you can see what's on the other side.
Uh-huh.
Is this gonna be a glass door, so you can see who's on the other side when you are,
We haven't
coming up?
determined the glass.
So these were the
it-
questions, these were the
would be-
questions.
It would
I
be
had.
something that would be a quick release door, and they have glass versions of that, yes.
So what I asked was, for the underground parking, consider relevant parking structure ordinance provisions, plus exterior finishes, access controls, and ventilation. So I guess what I'd like to see is, I can point to examples where they've got these gates, and they're not attractive. I can also point to examples where you've got the arch, the metal arch,
We wouldn't want either one of those, honestly.
but you may have some requirement to do that. I remember asking at one point why we had one of those, and I think I got feedback that maybe we needed to have it, but, so, those are questions. I'm concerned about, what I heard, what I heard, so we've got the letter from the police chief that says we didn't do the study. So if he's assuming, Dave, for example, what I think I heard you say was there's access on the south parking lot. So let's say, for example, you drive a fire truck on the south side of that building right now, and you're sitting on top of that parking deck.
You're not gonna be on the parking deck, I'm sorry.
Well, you know something?
And
So
they're gonna fight a fire, they're gonna fight a fire from all around this site, but you're not gonna pull a fire truck next to a burning building.
So,
Well, I mean, I am a firefighter, and I was the
Right.
public safety director, and I actually went over it myself. And the ordinance says, it doesn't say it has to have a fire marshal review it, it says that the public safety department has to determine if, public safety services can be accessed, or can be provided. And, you know, unless there's some, weight issue, but, listen, if I was there, I would not pull a truck right on top of that. I would fight a fire from High Oak, or fight it from the west side. You'd have to pull just, I mean, I can't explain it to you, but you have to pull this south, where there's a road going back to the back parking lot. We have a 110-foot ladder.
you know something, David? This is for any emergency vehicle that may be heavy.
Yes.
At the end of the day,
Well, yeah, the weight part of it, you know, I didn't consider. I considered access.
I get it. And actually, I heard what you said, and I take your point.
Okay.
I'm looking at it from the weight point of view. And
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
because I just did a little bit of digging and talked to a couple people, and they said, you know, you put too much weight on, people do this all the time,
Fair enough.
but this is all load limited, and I had someone look at these specs, and, you know, it's good for a
If I might just stop
good
you,
for a
the
passenger
driveway-
vehicle?
The driveway is all grade, it's all grade. Okay, all of this area where you're talking about this truck is gonna drive in here. This is all parking lot on grade, all the way up to the dumpster.
Well,
Only
actually,
to the north
Half of that is, I think.
Only to the north of that.
It's this,
but actually,
or it's on the other plan.
these three, this is all underneath the driveway right here.
If they stay on the south side.
So this is the building, okay? This is this, okay? This is the building. So this is your driveway right here. This is 30 feet. I'm looking at your plans.
So our driveway that goes up to this, so our underground stops here. So there's access to
Actually,
that dumpster. It does not.
That's
doesn't
not
go
what these
past
plans
that.
show. So this shows, here's your stairway, right here. This shows that the underground parking comes down to
Right
here.
here, it goes down.
It
to
goes
here, yeah.
30 feet down to here. So, you know, so,
I guess cars do have to, are parked.
so if you're pulling in here, you're gonna drive right over the parking lot. So anyways, I'm not comfortable with that. And I'm not comfortable with the circulation. I'm not comfortable with the front elevation. I think you need to screen whatever is on the other side of, this is my opinion, of what's on the other side of that hedge, so that we're not seeing all the parked vehicles. And
I would like the door out here, the glass door out here, so people know that it's a secure building.
You really can't put a door there because there's no walls to enclose it. We'd have to put it at the bottom if we do a door. I mean, we're not required to do a door. I mean, we could not do a door at the bottom and have it as an open parking area. I mean, the
No,
building is secured below.
I like the safety of it.
It's
but
more
you
just-
need a post on the other side, right?
but you should really see the door.
Yeah, I know you should see the door. I'm just talking about the CIBC door is a clear door. It just needs to be held up on one side by the,
Well, it would have to be enclosed and.
The signage, so we looked for signage, and I read what you said in the memo. You're not asking for signage now, but. does
We're
that
not
mean
asking
that
for signage.
You're never gonna ask for signage? Nope. Okay. That's not, okay, so we could, okay, because that's not what it says. It says we're not asking at this time. So that means, that's sort of an open-ended deal,
Yes.
right? Okay?
Sorry, just
So-
maybe the way it was written.
So the south building, so we don't have, I asked for elevations of the south building. Okay, we discussed that. I'd like to, it'd be nice to be able to see it, okay? Next thing is, so with the south building now, we're doing an entire site plan review. And so the south building, we're doing more than renovating it. We're actually changing the use of the building. So it's going from office to medical.
Okay.
So normally, think about your house. When you go in and you rewire it or something, you have the inspector come out, and what you do is you reevaluate, and actually sometimes you've got to change it and upgrade the amenities. It might be the plugs or whatever. So here, we've got a complete change to the building. And so my question was, have we done a site appraisal of this building based on current standards? And so,
Sir, that would be all done and controlled by the building department and the building requirements. I mean, that's standard for any building, whether it's new, whether it's renovated. Everything has to be done per Michigan Building Code.
So some of it might be discretionary. So I'll give you an example. So we have a screening requirement for rooftop mechanical.
Okay,
So this building now is 25 years old or so. So a lot's changed in 25 years. Now we require that you screen rooftop mechanicals. Because you're changing the building significantly, I mean, you're changing the use, you're putting it to medical, likely a lot of that may change. And so I asked about that, and what I'd like to know is, there's a lot, have you looked at the mechanicals on top of the building?
yes.
Okay, there's a lot going, it's not screened. And so the question becomes, and there's a bunch of stuff going on up there, is whether or not we should be screening it.
Multiple things. Regarding the medical use, our company is involved with a $250 million that PFN is putting on the site of Kmart. And we know exactly what medical use will require from engineering. As far as the tools that you look at the stuff, that system will be totally removed. It doesn't fit the medical system.
That's what I sort of figured that.
Yeah, it doesn't fit and we're moving it out. And it will be our design.
Okay?
Will you
So-
say that first part again? That was interesting to me. Will you say that first part again? You
About
said
the
you were
Kmart.
working on
They're doing a medical building,
The-
Kmart.
where the Kmart was.
They're
You're
doing
working on
engineering.
that.
The new FM website. the-
Your company, your
Like,
company.
we are the design engineer for this project,
Okay.
as well as the website,
Okay.
not just this one.
So you would know, since this is your bailiwick, you would know what the mechanicals will look like now when you change it over. Okay.
I simply asked, then, I'd like to see that we assess. I figured you'd probably end up changing that rooftop mechanical stuff. And so what we should do is we should provide for screening around the mechanical, because that's a requirement in our city. Now, beyond that, where it gets into this discretionary type element, is you end up with a non-conforming use. So, or something that's non-conforming. So, for example, you could have the mechanical, which was not required to be screened when it was installed, but now the rules require screening. So here we have a situation where, and it gets a little muddled when you look at the rules, but here we've actually changed the use of the building. We're repurposing the building and actually making significant change to its use. It's not a 50%. There's different measures to do this.
It sounds like he's willing to do it anyway. even if
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
But
so,
it's
but
not
we
an
need to,
elevation,
but
so it's-
I guess the point is, we need to address these things.
Yeah,
Sure. We'll show you that with the elevation on that.
Okay, so I've raised, I've raised a bunch of issues, and I'm done with mine. I could go on for a few more. I don't think this is gonna get approved. Is someone gonna make a motion to approve this?
No,
Okay.
not me.
Okay, well, I don't, if someone was gonna do that, I didn't wanna stop someone
I
from
think
making.
we should make a motion to table it,
Okay,
because we have several issues that the commission is concerned about.
Okay.
A lot that you have. I would say, though, maybe to help them out, is if you could document, like, issue 1, 2, 3, so that.
Can I
you know-
They're
read
all
what I,
documented.
Perfect.
can I, okay, can we just go over what,
Yes,
to
go
help
ahead.
them? Because I want to help you, you know.
Right,
Um,
right.
And they're not random order, but, and you can yay or nay. Landscape along the High Oak Road to obscure the view of the parked cars for the north building.
Yes, we can increase that.
On High Oak. If the city, give the right to require the city, if the city deems necessary, that you will build out the banked parking spaces. Show engineering proof that the underground parking roof, the roof of the underground parking is able to withstand the weight of a garbage truck, fire truck on the south side entry, you know, make sure the entry is load-bearing on the south side of the north building. Owner will agree to prohibit electric vehicles from parking in the underground parking, and of course, not have an electric power source charging station underground. Engineer will prove there's adequate turnaround mobility in the underground parking area. An engineer report showing that, not just lines on the drawing. I don't know about this one, but ADA show, since we're borrowing, you are seeking approval based on the parking spaces of the north building, that you show ADA access between the buildings, either a ramp or whatever, you know, freight elevator, I don't know. So it's wheelchair access. Resolve and show in a drawing what the gate to the underground parking will look like and where it's located. Show proper rendering showing the posts, locations. There were 4 in one, 3 another, and I.
6 in the.
6 now. And also to show a proper rendering of the rooftop patio view from Long Lake and from High Oak, please. And show a landscape plan of the rooftop. You said you're changing that. And show the screening of the south building's new rooftop mechanicals. Is that?
Yeah, that's good.
Seem
You just got the
inclusive?
next one.
did you have on there?
Yeah.
What am I?
Screening of the parking area underneath the building?
That was the
Yeah,
first
that
one.
was the first
Yeah.
one.
Was?
Yeah.
Landscape
first
along
one.
High Oak to obscure view
sorry,
of parked cars on
Okay.
the north
How
building.
about the tree removal along
yeah.
No, I
the
got
lake?
it.
Below the trees.
I was taking
Oh,
the same
yeah,
notes
that I do
before.
not have. So what was the other one?
The tree removal?
What
There's
about
some nice trees that they were suggesting.
secure? I think we were looking for an arborist to prove that they were unhealthy, or how do you want to word?
I don't think.
Well, I think there's two considerations. One is, can you save the trees?
Try to save the trees.
I mean, they're big trees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're oak trees. So the question is,
And the character of, yeah,
can you save the trees?
along Long Lake.
I mean, we normally, when we go through a site and there's existing trees, if trees are considered in good condition and that they're gonna survive, but when they're considered poor and fair condition, they're typically figured, especially when they're that large, that they're on their way down. And to keep a tree that large that you then have to take out in 5 or 10 years, and
Oh,
which creates a lot of other issues
so
with
I have a
that.
building site, and I'm gonna put on a 30-foot high maple. 30-foot high maple. My tree guy can get that in, and it's literally next to the Lewis River. So when you take down a really nice tree that makes,
So for the
that's
driveway
something about the
going
character on that corner, And we need a lot of character on that
So
corner
did you talk
because
about
of the
access controls,
office building on the other side,
ventilation?
right?
Oh,
Have you looked into
Door
replacing
and
it with a large tree?
We can look, I don't remember exactly what size trees she has there, but we can certainly look at that and see if those could be increased in size.
that's one of our main master goals, is to be a tree, mature tree city and not be different from Troy and different.
Nobody hates a twig any less than me, so I don't want to see twigs up there, so I totally agree.
We'd love to keep.
And that
mature
wasn't
tree
our intent. It's,
I've
possible.
never seen such small trees, for the record, as the Davison building. Have you ever seen that? I've never even knew I could buy trees that small. And they're all over that property,
right.
like
So-
Charlie Brown.
So you guys have another
So
meeting to
sad.
go to.
We
and I
do,
don't want-
so.
We do.
gotta-
So, all right.
Oh, on the point one, where you said, landscaping to cover that side, right? Landscaping to cover the side, and/or just a different design like you did with the Art Van building? Just a little different design, something
Yeah,
that's
it's
in
just
line
it's-
with it,
Can you, if you could
Not
do
the
that, that would be pretty slick.
something different.
it's not quite the
Art
same.
Van, not
It's
the
not
Art
quite
Van.
the same thing there, yeah. It's a different
Not-
condition.
Not the Art Van, something different.
I read your note.
And
All right, I'm just saying you have other options, I'm not saying it has to be.
All right.
Okay.
Is that yours? This is yours? I think that's yours.
So I think we're done with this.
So-
So we need to make a motion.
I made a motion.
Okay,
I made a motion to table this.
okay.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
could I ask a question? What does that mean from a timing standpoint? Is it tabled to the next meeting, or
It's up
how
to
does
the
that work?
city when, yeah, is that the next meeting, or, yeah?
And that would be when? Do you have that date?
First Tuesday.
Second
Second
Tuesday of every
Tuesday.
month.
Second Tuesday of the month.
Great.
That's all upon our.
And I'll make sure everybody
Yes,
gets what
they are
they
in
need.
control of that. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Sorry, it takes, you know, I dive into the detail.
Are we adjourned?
Guys who win, so
Are we
you
adjourned,
know.
Chairman?
There we go.
Chairman?
That's fine.
Are we adjourned?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Unless there's anything more,
No.
I adjourn our meeting.
No, Tom
Thank
has
you very
questions.
much.